can't let people know that you're happy to be here.
Yeah,
All right,
it's like,
Everybody talk.
there we go. Stupid Facebook.
All right. So, everybody, welcome to the July American Praetorians chat, live stream, whatever we're calling it. We've got Mike managed to make it this month, and we've got Larry Correia, the International Lord of Hate, New York Times bestselling author Larry freaking Correia. So Larry's been talking about action writing for about the last podcast for about the last 3 weeks now.
Yep.
So we're just going to keep rolling with that.
Oh man, we were like the worst guys ever for coordinating a night to do this. We were like, Wednesday? No, I can't do Wednesday. Thursday? Oh, yeah, let's do Thursday. Oh, we can't do Thursday. Friday.
And
Yeah.
he's gone. Oh, there you go.
No, I stupidly had YouTube open on the same page at the same time as StreamYards, and I was like, what the hell is going on? I got to figure. I'm a technical
I have
wizard. I got
nothing
this
else
figured
open
out.
on my computer.
Well, I would have all that stuff open, but my PC decided to brick itself, so I'm on a laptop now.
No.
And you'll probably have less trouble than the rest of us.
Probably because it's all, yeah, I don't know. I had a pretty sweet rig up until 2 weeks ago. So
Emphasis
you
on
can
had.
You can ask Mike. I can break any technological device. Like I can kill it.
If I remember right.
well, yeah, you have a range now. So.
A receipt printer
Oh,
almost
literally.
killed you one time too. So
Yeah, actually, the closest I've ever come to death, I think, was getting really angry at a receipt printer to the point that a little vein popped in my forehead. And that was actually my clue that it was time to get out of the gun business.
It's a paperwork, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like Mike was like leaving the gun shop one night, and he's like, "Are you sure you're okay, man?" And I'm like shaking the receipt printer, bright red, swearing at it, screaming at it, and I'm like, "I'm fine."
it's been hilarious listening to the people in Congress talk about, oh, the gun industry has made $1 billion in the last decade or so. Like
Larry had the best comeback to that.
That's less than one mediocre Avengers movie. I mean, it's
Yeah, my comment on that is if the gun business has made $1 billion, they probably started with $2 billion. Hey, there's no money in the gun business. What the crap?
I would always.
There's a lot of money in going into politics and claiming that the gun business is making a lot of money.
Oh yeah, all you got to do is be the.
No. There is money in the gun business so long as you're a state senator from California and you're not doing it legally. So.
Oh yeah.
I would
Leland Yee is a legend.
I would always tell people that if you like to shoot and you want to be poor, go into the gun business. I mean,
worked for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only reason I took up shooting is because I couldn't afford 40K miniatures. So.
That's my two hobbies. There's miniature painting and guns. And my wife actually encourages the miniature painting because it's cheaper than 3-gun competition.
You should get a boat.
That explains why you write so many books. It's just because you have the most expensive hobbies.
Dude, I have to write books. I mean, seriously, I can't afford this otherwise. I mean, between ammo prices and lead, I have lead either way. I'm buying lead, okay, and it's just super pricey.
You should get a boat. You need another money pit.
I need a boat or a horse.
Oh, okay. Horse. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I need. I got some acres. I'm just gonna get a horse and spend like $50,000 a year on vet bills.
I grew up with horses. My mom was a horse people. She hung out with horse people. I've never met anyone who had horses where the horses didn't come to like dominate their entire lives.
I was shooting with a friend of mine a few weeks ago, and he had to take his single 6 out to shoot to get the evil out of it because he shot it twice, both times to put a horse down. So, yeah, there's that part too.
Oh my gosh!
Fetch me my horse killing gun.
Yeah.
You don't even need that. You just need to scare them real bad until they break their legs, and they're done anyways.
Dude, we grew up. We had the worst horses because we were dairy farmers. We didn't know anything about horses, right?
Those
my dad was like compelled to have horses because he had like all these delusions of like we'd have these magnificent cutting horses, that was like herd cows.
He had to justify the hat, right?
Yeah, well, that way you could wear the cool hat. And so my dad, though, being a cheap ass dairy farmer, bought the dumbest, worst horses that nobody else wanted. So we had like, the Korea's home for mentally unstable horses. We had like straight up psycho killers.
That needs to be your next book.
But dude, I hate horses, man. I should write a Western and just like hate the horses the whole time. I'd never hear the end of it from the horse people. I've been bitten. I've been kicked. I'm not a cowboy.
Korea's house of mentally unstable horses could.
Yeah, we said it was like my dad's name was Lawrence, so it was like Lawrence's rescue, Lawrence's psychotic rescue horses, and man, they would just wait to pounce on you as like you come up to the fence with some hay and they just reach over and bite you. Oh my gosh, and they shake you like a terrier with a rat. Evil creatures.
That's why we upgraded the cars.
I've never been bitten by a horse. I've been thrown a couple times. My mom got hurt pretty bad getting bucked off a horse once. I had one clothesline me off his back with a tree branch. I haven't ridden a horse in like 20 years, and I'm okay with that. So
the last time I rode a horse was the day we bought a four-wheeler. The day we bought our first four-wheeler was literally the last time I rode a horse. Not a joke. And I was good. My son is learning to ride a horse now with the neighbors, and I'm like, you have fun.
You can repair a four-wheeler.
Yeah, and the four-wheeler's not actively trying to kill me.
Somebody was making a comment about a guy riding a cow due to his hatred of horses. Like, we already have Buffalo Rider.
Yeah, they already made it.
Cinematic masterpiece.
Great movie. Great song.
I've seen the actual movie. It's a riff tracks.
Yeah. That's how
I've only
Buffalo
seen the
Rider.
movie video. I've seen the music video like a dozen times, guy on a buffalo, and you get it in your head.
It's meant to be like a family movie from, I think, the 70s or so. There's a half-hour long segue in the middle where they talk about a family of raccoons. Nothing to do with the rest of the story. They just had to pad out that runtime.
Didn't somebody actually get mauled by a cougar?
Probably. Or hurt by the buffalo.
Like there's a cougar fight, but it's actually happening because the mountain lion got loose and is actually trying to maul the dude. And they just went ahead and filmed it anyway.
Sir, I think he's really hurt. Keep rolling.
You don't waste good footage.
Well, there's like that one stunt in what was it, Mad Max, where the dude got flipped off the motorcycle, was going end over end through. He didn't plan on doing that, but they kept it in the movie because if he's going to die for it, we're going to get good footage.
No.
If I was the stunt man, I would demand that be in there because if I died for it, that's the greatest stunt ever.
Make that part of the contract. Like, if I die doing a stunt, it stays in the movie, no matter how gruesome it is.
That said, I have actually
all the light work still in frame and shit. Like
and I was like, wow.
This is supposed to be a PG movie. Old boy just got decapitated.
It went rated R there for a second. I was going to say, I have ridden cows, though. So what you do is when they're coming out of the barn, you got they're walking down the little narrow alleyway, and you get up on top with your legs, and you wait for the cow to walk underneath, and you jump down on its back. That always went over super well.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody loves it when you're just minding your own business and somebody jumps on your back, right?
Well, and we basically it's kind of like rodeo. We'd see how far we could make it with 3-4 feet being a really good run.
Well, that sounds like an action scene in a book. So, Larry, what can you tell us about action writing?
That's what this is about, huh? Oh no, geez, we got some good action writers here tonight. Both Pete and Mike are just awesome. Write really good action scenes. What do I know about it? I don't know. Action's
This is how you make your money in the romance category, right?
Scottish time travel romance is my backup plan. I'm going to switch to that. No, I love writing action. That's my main thing. I absolutely. I was a gun nut first before I was a writer, and I got started as a gun nut, and I just kind of incorporated all that gun nuttiness in there, and kind of went nuts, and basically owe my whole career to that. I was one of the first guys that actually got that stuff right and got it out in front of an audience, and people loved it. And internet gun forums were my first fans; those were my first readers, and so And I've just run with action ever since, and it's forced me to learn all sorts of other stuff that I don't know. I'm just a fat accountant. I'm not an action dude. But, luckily I know a bunch of people who, know people, as I'm talking to you guys. And,
I was going to say, you have to be the only guy I've ever heard of who got their start writing on a gun forum,
Well,
you should get on that.
Yeah, except, actually, I'm pointing the wrong way. Well,
just leaving Mike hanging.
I'd say we were probably the first, though. I'm sure there's been others, but me and Mike were probably some of the very, very first.
I've heard people say that people were doing it back on Usenet and stuff back in the day, but we were the first ones that, I'm going to go ahead and say, I think we were the first ones who actually got a big audience reaction out of it. That thread went crazy. It was.
Oh yeah, we had thousands of readers, and actually, because I'd already written Monster Hunter and I was getting ready to self-publish it, and so when I was doing Dead 6 with Mike, I had a secret ploy in that I was hoping to get people convinced that I could actually write good enough to give me money for my $25 self-published paperback back in those olden days, print-on-demand paperback.
All the self-publishing aspirants today don't know how good they got it.
Oh,
yeah, Pete.
Well, good and bad, to be fair. On the good side, you're not selling a $25 print-on-demand paperback, but you're also competing with 100,000 other jackasses who wrote a book this month.
And
not to mention, you're also competing with the systems that are supposed to be there to help you. Because I'm still waiting for Marcus Reprisals paperback to hit Amazon.
Oh man, the horror stories I've heard in the last couple of years for indie guys on Amazon, it's nuts. Just nuts.
At the same time, I think getting into traditional publishing is probably more difficult than it's ever been too. Feel like I caught the last chop. Feel like I kind of caught the last chopper out of Saigon there. It was...
Yeah, well, we've seen the industry's just all converged and woke and ridiculous, and if you better check some boxes for the marketing department, or you ain't getting nothing. It's so ridiculous.
Larry, did you see that comment from Joyce Carol Oates talking about how there are so many authors aspire that they won't even read their manuscripts because they're white men?
Well, yeah. And so Joyce Carol Oates, if you don't know, is a really famous left-wing author and been around forever. And so she starts talking about the realities of the publishing business, and agents won't talk to you if you're a straight white male. And it was hilarious to watch all these little social justice minions come out and started ripping her apart, gaslighting her. That's not what it means. That's not what they do. And then other agents are like, we would never do that. But at the same time, we must keep the oppressors down and reward people who are traditionally oppressed.
It was the classic, it's not happening, but if it was, it would be good.
Yeah.
And they got happening, but it's a good thing with that stuff too.
Oh, dude, it was. I loved it. Anytime these guys start eating each other, all I do is I just laugh and say, "I told you so." I tried to warn you guys, and I'm like, "Ha, suckers."
The funny thing about the James Patterson thing is that his apology for it straight up read like a hostage video. It was a tweet, but I could see him blinking in Morse code during that apology.
What did James Patterson apologize for?
For saying that, if you're a white guy, don't even try. Book published.
Oops! Yeah. Accidentally said the truth. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's worth $1 bazillion, and he's still wimped out when they came at him. And I'm like, dude, I was worth pocket change and I didn't fold, and you're worth $1 billion freaking. James Patterson has 100 authors chained in his basement, churning out books for him to put his name on.
I was about to say, maybe he's trying to look out for his ghostwriters. They're
yeah. The dude plays poker with Castle, and he friggin' wilted before Twitter. Come on, dude, man up.
Because Larry, you didn't fold when you were making pocket change because you were never getting invited to those Eyes Wide Shut parties, anyways. He is, and that's what he's got to hold on to. It really is. It's just the networking.
Okay, time for a big sip of the Unsea juice.
Yeah, I never got invited to an Eyes Wide Shut bar. All the time I've been to Manhattan, not once did I ever get invited to anything with, naked Nicole Kidman, not a single time, which is
They
kind of
couldn't
a
find a
ripoff.
masquerade that was big enough for you.
You know, you could probably go to the pop culture equivalent, which is like room parties at Dragon Con. You know, that's how you get the monkeypox, though. So
Dude, I've been invited to stuff like that.
At the same time.
Yeah, but you got to have the mask on for the. Oh wait, no, that's LTUE.
You know.
Oh, dude. Oh, man. Yeah, I hope they have a monkeypox outbreak. That'll learn them. No, I never really fit in. Oh my gosh, $299 too. I'm assuming that's for the Kickstarter.
Yep, you are just shy of 300,000.
Dude, that's gone up $5,000 since I looked at dinner. I'm sorry. I'm just a nerd. I'm just a happy nerd. For anybody who's watching who hasn't seen this, this is the last 24 hours of a Kickstarter that I'm doing for MHI miniatures, which basically is just an excuse for me to paint stuff. Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. And don't you have yourself as a miniature for the stretch goals now?
I am the final stretch goal. I didn't think we were going to do $30,000 today.
I have an idea.
You're going to be the 2 square base or the 4 square base because you're like 6'8" or 6'13", whatever you are.
I am a svelte 6'5". I was 6'6" in my youth, but I've compressed because gravity is a cruel mistress.
I have an idea, Larry. You should have your stretch goal, action Larry, and then you should have your stretch goal, writer Larry, where it's just you like hunched over a keyboard.
It's the same mini. It's the same mini, except he's just fatter. And instead of a gun and a Tetsubo, he's got like a cheeseburger and a Coke Zero.
So what you need is for that stretch goal is an add-on mailbox so that you can do the stranger.
Just a separate head, with the mailbox head. Yeah, that would be good. Or they could do they could put a big straw head with like a big scarecrow hat, and they just have a separate head that popped off for Straw Larry, interchangeable.
There might be somebody out there who isn't familiar with all the Larry Deep lore who's probably wondering what the hell we're talking about.
I know, but if they want to find out, they've got to read his book. So it's a great marketing gig.
And like 15 years of blog posts.
If this shakes out right, 50 years after I'm dead, there's going to be Korea scholars like there's Tolkien scholars. And it's all going to be people talking about like cartoon manatees and what the manatee symbolizes.
No, you're wrong. They are going to be like the Tolkien scholars, where they're a bunch of like blue-haired, like perpetual students who are like, Larry was really about progress. He wanted all his characters to be. What he wrote wasn't actually what he wanted. What he wanted was for us to just change everything about it.
Yeah. And they're going to be making either a Netflix or an Amazon show where everything is changed. They're not using guns because guns are bad. So
thing is, Owen's already a minority, so they could race swap him and make him like a blonde-haired white guy.
Milo's obviously going to be black because he's got red hair. So
redheads always turn into black dudes. Actually, the thing to watch out for is not when they make my stuff into movies, but it's like when they make a biopic about my life. Because that's when they gay everything up. And Mike, I got some bad news for you. I've known you for a long time, man. Isn't that just going to be the sequel
to the Ruby Ridge documentary?
Say what?
Isn't that going to be the sequel to the Ruby Ridge documentary?
Oh gosh, we used to joke back at the gun store. We used to joke that the movie about my life would be called "Sudden Violence: The Larry Correia Story," and it would just be like the day I finally snap. And they were going to get James Gandolfini to play me. This is back when James Gandolfini was around.
I'm imagining awesome. having an interview with like a receipt printer, and it was horrible. I was trying to do my job. He just turned on me.
The receipt printer is going to be, silhouetted with
with the voice modulators.
I've seen some things, but I've never seen that.
Hey, I got to open my window a little bit. Hang on a second. It actually the weather got nice, so I had to believe it for the first time in weeks.
Here's actually a good topic because we talked about this before. I seen some people complaining about your artwork for your Kickstarter game, your miniature game. So this would be a good time to talk about how difficult it can be to get like cover artists to do what you want, because they do not like being micromanaged by writers.
Oh, no, yeah.
And they're also very busy with a lot of projects at once. So,
well, actually, all things considered, the art for this Kickstarter for all the different characters has been pretty dang close. The Shane Braithwaite's doing the art, and he did a really good job actually, like staying really close to what's in the books. There are some things that are wrong, but overall, it's pretty dang good. Plus, he draws guns pretty well, even though sometimes he like flips an ejection port, which I never heard the end of for that. And I'm just like, Milo made it reversible. It's a reversible ejection port.
Ambidextrous extraction. It's
Yeah, it's got a flippable bolt. Yeah, Milo invented that years ago.
Well, so that's actually one of the best responses I heard you do is when somebody's like, it's like, this isn't how he looks like. You're like, until now, and now he does. Like,
the one that kills me too is like when people get in their head a certain description that is not in the book.
Yeah.
And they get like super adamant about it, and they're like, no, this guy is this and this, and I'm like, dude, I literally wrote the book and I know who I based that on, and that is not right. But you know what? More power to you. You run with that. I avoid, like, whenever they do the casting threads for like where they pick different actors to play characters, I avoid those like the plague because they drive me nuts. And they're so bad. Sometimes I like
frequent, or because they're choosing an actor that's like 30 years past what the ages you put into the books.
Yeah, they're like the age is super wrong, or like, but the age will be 30 years off, and that's fine. Or they're dead. They'll have somebody who's dead, and they're casting them. That's fine.
I want Sylvester Stallone to play Owen.
But if the hair color's wrong, they freak out. It's like, because Hollywood cannot possibly dye someone's hair. That's impossible. We all know that. And they're like, no, that character is blonde and this actor is brunette. That's impossible. Dude, you just got through casting a guy who's been dead for 30 years, and you're totally cool with that. My gosh.
I can't believe we're talking about old gunboard lore here, but I remember one casting thread when we were still writing the story that became Dead 6. And somebody suggested, I don't remember, it was some country western singer to play Valentine. Valentine was in his 20s through most of the books, right? I think
but he looks just like George Strait.
But it was this guy was imagining him as a country western singer who was probably in his 50s. So yeah, but your head image of the character is not necessarily what the author had in mind, and that's okay. That's okay.
That's the great thing about these casting threads that we're talking about is everybody seems to think that the only actor to ever have a handlebar mustache is Sam Elliott. Like, he is the only one that can ever play that character.
Never been done before. Never been done since. Only man in history to have that kind of mustache. And if you cast anybody else, that's just heretical.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've had that mustache before.
Oh, so he's a self-insert then, yeah.
Oh no, actually, Sam was actually based on a guy I went to college with, who was a Navy guy, total stud, and good dude. But I actually based Sam on him, a cowboy guy from Vernal, Utah, and state champion wrestler. And we used to wrestle and I outweighed him by like 40 pounds. But we used to wrestle to see who had to buy the pizza. I bought a lot of pizza.
You had to
wrestling dudes for pizza.
Wow, it sounds really gay when you say it like that, Mike. Jeez, man.
Everything sounds gay when Mike says it, so it's all good.
The cover art thing isn't just on people and casting either, because the wrong optics on the rifle in the on the cover.
Oh my gosh.
That happened with the cover of Alliance of Shadows, the third book in the Dead 6 trilogy. So Larry turned around and put the gun from the cover art in the book just to shut everybody up.
Oh, I know how people are. I know how nitpicky they are. They're the only people worse than gun people are horse people when it comes to getting gun stuff wrong. And oh man, they freak out about you. And my fans, I know your fans, Pete, you're in the same boat. If we screw up a gun thing, we will never, ever, ever, ever hear the end of it. Like, holy crap, they are so nitpicky. Like, I've made tiny errors, And there's always some dude who's going to be, I can't believe you did that.
There's always some pedant who like streams forgotten weapons videos constantly. Like, actually, that did, like, shut up, nerd.
Here's the funny thing about that is I laugh when like they get real hot and bothered about an error, and it's just no, they've never heard of that attachment or modification. It's like, well, that doesn't go on this. Is like, yes, it is. They just released it like 3 years ago.
Yeah, there's that too. I think you actually meant this. Nope, I meant that.
I meant what I said.
You know, that's why
I spent 3 hours in front of the computer researching this stuff before I put it in the book, and then I went back and edited it.
That's why with my previous book, The Family Business, it's set in like an alternate history type setting where aliens arrive 30 years before the start of the story. So all the technology is different. You know, the guns are different. Like the standard police sidearm is a 41 Magnum revolver, which was, people thought that was going to be a thing in the 70s, and it never happened. You know, in the book it did. And like the feds all had 40s, but the military used 10 millimeter.
They're all shooting HK caseless.
There were like fictional. There's like a fictional guns too. Like there was a Zhukov assault rifle and a Canadian break top revolver in 38. And
it's the most powerful gun they have.
I'm off. You know, I'm off Facebook, so I didn't get like. I'm wondering if people were like wanting to like kind of correct me on that stuff. Like that's not actually what they have. Like, oh, is it now?
Yeah, because Mike Cooper. If there's anybody who doesn't know, who's completely unfamiliar with esoteric revolvers, it's Mike Cooper. Tell
me more about what I got wrong in my imaginary world.
I did the same thing in Grimnoir. I had a lot of fun with that. I kind of went nuts on 1930s steampunk technology, various machine guns. I was like, I think Solotherm should make an FG-42.
Or a bullpup Browning automatic rifle, because why not?
Oh, man, I had fun with that thing. And my Mark IV Lewis guns.
And like some of the sci-fi that I've done, like my current one, Trouble Walked In, which comes out on July or August 8th, I believe.
Got it pre-ordered.
Right here.
Nice.
Look at that cover art.
They sent you one before me? What the fuck?
They sent me a whole box. I wrote it.
Yeah, but I pre-ordered it.
I gotta order my own.
There's a scene in there where somebody reloads a handgun, and I think it describes it as he like breaks it open and inserts a new ammunition cassette. So I'm like, yeah, figure that out, nerds.
It's a G11. It's Kraut space magic.
Technically, I could do just about anything I really want with most of my series because
you got the magic cauldron.
Blackhearts, I've already introduced at least 2 locations that don't actually exist in the real world.
I love that.
I figured if Frederick Forsyth could do it with the Dogs of War, so can I.
It's really hard writing a real location if you're not very familiar with it. It's easier to make up a location that sounds like it could be there. And who's going to say, like, oh, that town in China doesn't really exist. Who cares?
It's also, you're not going to get people pissed off at you because, like, you slighted Cuba. So you just change it to Valverde and have Arnold Schwarzenegger go crazy on it. Like, it's like, wow, he killed an entire island. Like,
as far as writing real places, Google Earth is an enormously useful tool.
Oh, dude, I love Google Earth.
I've used it a lot.
Useful.
I've been going back to 2015 when I was writing The Devil You Don't Know. Back when Larry was a character, call sign monster.
Hell yeah! I had an STI. I had an STI 2011 and an FAL.
Yeah, I had a blast with the gun porn in the American Praetorian series. I do with Blackhearts too, because as much as it's in a sort of alternate reality, I still throw in all sorts of real world weapons, both old and busted and new hotness. But yeah, I found out that Google Street View goes all through Mexico, so I was dropping down into streets to plot firefights in various cities in Mexico for The Devil You Don't Know. I still do that sometimes.
I don't
the Street View thing. Like Germany, there's no Street View in Germany except for a couple of places, and I think that has to do with the EU's privacy laws. But so I had to do a lot of the Europe stuff, just looking at the overheads.
Well, my favorite part is that, like, because Pete, myself, and Mike, we're all in like a chat group, and so we'll bounce ideas off each other. And Pete's sending us street views of like Chinese, power plants and manufacturing. And it's like, does this look like this could fit like a black, an off the books sort of a weapons depot or something like that? We're like, yeah, it does. I think you might have actually found one of them. Like Pete's out here doing OSINT work for.
I did that for the opening scene of Dead 6 too. I actually was looking at Google Maps of Cancun, Mexico. The hotel with the pear-shaped swimming pool, I think, was something I made up. But and now it's really easy to do that stuff now. This was back in 2009.
Yeah, we didn't have Street View back then, but remember we did for Zubara. We actually picked a real piece of land that there was no city on, and we built a city on this one peninsula that exists in real life. And
we sat in Larry's kitchen and drew a diagram. I still have that somewhere.
That was pretty baller. You can sell that on eBay now.
There was actually a little an MS Paint drawing I did of Fort Saradia too.
Yep. Yeah, I used Google Earth one time, so I did the final fight in Spellbound, and it was Washington. It was on the Washington D.C. I was on the mall, and I'd never been there yet. At that point in my life, I hadn't been there, and so I wrote that scene. Yeah, and I went there years later and walked around, and it was like, okay, cool. I got this pretty close to what I had in the scene, which is funny though because I added this one extra monument that's not there in real life because it's alternate history, and it was the monument of Teddy Roosevelt fighting demons and zombies in World War I, and he's on his rearing horse fighting the Kaiser's zombies. And it was so funny because I put this in some pedantic jackass on one of the reviews. He's like, that's not where the Roosevelt Memorial is. It's like the Roosevelt Memorial where he died in World War I fighting the Kaiser zombies isn't there. You don't say. That's a different thing? Whoa. Holy crap, dude.
Give me a big enough 3D printer and I can put it there if you want.
That would be baller. It'd be way better than the real one.
Like to the audience out there, I am immensely grateful for your patronage and for buying the books and for reading. But every once in a while, you get somebody where they just can't wrap their walnut around the fact this is a fictional world and things might be different. It's I don't know what it is. I don't know.
North China and South China aren't at war. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's like, wait, when did the Chinese use nuclear bombs in their civil war? And we're like, in my imagination.
It's actually in the 80s.
I'd originally read at least part of Back Mr. Nightcrawler, and then I picked up Dead 6. Actually, while I was working on Task Force Desperate, and I start reading it. It's like, wait, I thought this was supposed to be in Doha.
No, I made a fictional country, and in the original
Mexico, right?
No, Mexico's a real country. Australia is not a real country. Get it right.
Yeah. Australia and Canada are fictional countries.
There's no way Justin Trudeau's real. Come on.
No. Nobody would ever believe it. If you put that in a book, nobody would believe it.
I put him in Tom Stranger, and he was played by, as I refer to it, the kid from High School Musical.
You also called him Canadian President Zoolander one time. So
I don't know how many in here follow S2 Underground on YouTube. They're putting out fairly regular OSINT intel updates, but in the latest intel update, he referred to Prime Minister Trudeau.
Well, he also did, he was describing night vision and how eyes and the lens and do all that pick up. He's like, so this part of the eye picks up light, or for your brains, this is what picks up anime.
Oh, the dude gets some real deadpan little jabs in there on a regular basis. Considering how depressing so much of his material is, he kind of has to if he's going to maintain his sanity.
I saw somebody had there was a crayon, not crayon flavored cereal, but there was a box of cereal somebody took a picture of with crayons on the box, and they were like, "Show this to your Marine friends, send it to all of them."
Which is funny. So like Pete said this before. I'm in the same boat. Like this became a meme after I got out. So I did my entire Marine Corps career without ever hearing it. So when people were like, haha, Cranator, I was like, oh yeah, you're on the internet. That's like, it's so foreign to me. Even though this meme's been going on for like 5 years, it's still like, what?
It's a very online thing from after our time.
Yeah. Which, I mean, crayons would taste better than the MREs we got anyway. So it's like,
It was always funny when people would try to give me a hard time about the Air Force. Like, oh, you think you know dumb things about the Air Force?
yeah.
I lived it. I saw a guy doing PT on a unicycle. Listen.
Trust me, it's way worse.
You know nothing of just how bad it is.
He wore red sneakers to try and go faster.
It wasn't even, you know what, though? It wasn't bad. I had a great time for most of my Air Force career. It was just...
Yeah, but you got to blow shit up. Like
even normal Air Force wasn't bad. It's kind of corporate and kind of nerdy. And it's like almost a night and day difference from my experience in the Army back when. And the way I described it as the Army and the Air Force are a couple that got a divorce, right? And the Army, the dad, he'll never forgive that bitch for leaving him, right? And that's one of the reasons they hate each other. But she's also trying real hard she's really emotionally needy now. Like the Air Force was very risk averse. Like, oh, we don't want you to do this. It's not safe. You're always afraid you're going to leave her. Whereas the Army, you're not good enough. You're not
trying to find that new branch.
And the Army is like, you're not good enough unless you play football. I mean, went to Ranger school. So
Ranger school, isn't that just for folks?
Ranger school, from what I understand, it is you basically getting kicked in the balls for 6 months straight. And
So Pete and I worked with a lot of Rangers, and they would always go on about Ranger school. And so the rest of us, like Marines, we were just like, wait, that sounds exactly like ISLIC, except ISLIC is the Infantry Squad Leaders course. Except you have to be an 03 or an infantry guy to go through that. So we just called it Ranger School for Pogues, and the Ragnars lost their shit every time. Like, because you can be a Pogue and go to Ranger School.
I actually asked my first sergeant in, I think it was 06, about going to Ranger School, and I said, don't. You've been through BRC. You already know how much life can suck.
Yeah.
When I was at Camp Auxilia in 2004, I listened to a Marine and a Ranger get into an argument over who was cooler. And he was like, well, what do the Rangers do that the Marines don't? And it basically boiled down to parachuting, and that was about it. So,
So I was in the Marines my entire military career. I've been on as many combat drops as most of the airborne units. So,
and my only contribution to that discussion was, I was in the National Guard, and now we all have the same job. So that all worked out great for you guys.
And if you want to learn more about the National Guard, check out The Reservist by J.R. Hamlin. Still waiting for the sequel, Reservist 2, Reserve Harder.
Oh, man.
Speaking about action books, though, Larry, you brought up, really, because you were a gun guy, you got into writing all the gun stuff for Monster Hunter International, Dead Six, and so forth. But you also have written some high fantasy sword and sorcery books. One of my favorite series, the Forgotten Warrior Saga. And so
I'm working on number 4 right now.
What do you find that you had to switch gears sort of on how to write close in melee combat with swords and armor and all that rather than the gun stuff?
Yeah, because on the gun stuff, I could fake it till I make it. I mean, I know how to shoot, and I know a lot of that stuff. But I am not a sword guy. I've never done any of that kind of stuff. Yeah. I faked it till I made it, and luckily I got Tony Weisskopf, my editor, and she hooked me up with a guy named Whit Williams, who is a badass of sword fighting type stuff. And so basically, I write the scenes, I write the books, I send them off to Tony for editing, and she has Whit read all the action scenes. and if I screw anything up, and it's like, that's not how you would stab this guy. And I was like, I will change it. But no, I do my homework. I try to get good. My daughter is actually doing competitive sword fighting now. My daughter's doing HEMA.
There you go.
Which is kind of cool. So now I'll have her yelling at me too. Oh, Larry didn't spend time studying the blade. No, I did not. I was. I can't say in like high school, like the way that meme goes is like the dude who's like scoring with the cheerleaders. No, I was home milking cows. So I was less cool.
You were playing with breasts somehow, though.
While you were having premarital sex, I was studying the cow.
Look, I've had enough premarital sex that I can also call that studying the cow.
Oh, Larry, your Kickstarter just broke $301,000.
Oh man, that's nuts! I'm blown away. You guys, my fans are amazing. I can't even wrap my brain around that. That's so cool. Maybe one of these days I'll be a real writer and get some good fans. You know, some
let me know when
fans.
you have 500 people at your book signings.
As one does.
Speaking of book signings, a little bit of an aside here. Uncle Hugo's is reopening next month. I don't have the exact dates yet. I'll put them out when I get them, but they asked me if I wanted to go up there for a signing. Just kind of like, I don't know how many people I'm going to draw in by myself. I'm assuming the number is pretty close to zero.
I've got book plates right here that I'm signing to send to Mike.
But we will have copies of The Invisible Wars, which is the Dead Six Compendium, signed by both of us. So if you want one of those, you're going to have to go up there and get it. And I don't have very many. So
speaking of combat drops, all your fans are going to have to airdrop in because it's safer than walking there.
Oh, Uncle Hugo's is in a new neighborhood now.
Okay, good.
Yeah, the old neighborhood was actually really interesting. And that was one where I'm not saying that me and Mike were rolling dirty because Minnesota doesn't honor our concealed weapons permits, but I theoretically wouldn't,
If you could, you would, though.
I totally would have. Totally.
No, I don't think any of that counts when you're on private property, so.
Yeah. I totally didn't strap up until I got there.
Yeah, at one point, the Minneapolis police were advising motorists to not, in some parts of the city, to not stop for red lights because the carjackings are that bad. Now, it is, like last year, there was a beheading, and there's a Twitter account called like Crime Watch Minneapolis, and that city has seen better days.
The city's gone nuts.
That's their culture, okay?
I used to love going there. That used to be one of my favorite places. And I've been there like on almost every book tour because I would always start out at Uncle Hugo's. And so that was. I knew all the really good places to eat in that really crappy neighborhood. I used to go to the International Mart. I knew like all the different ethnic food places I loved. And then, it's all gone now. And the hotel I used to stay in is now like a giant homeless encampment. Like literally, it was like a decent hotel, and now it's just straight up. It's like here, it's Hobo Town.
I think the thing that bothered me most about the whole incident in case anyone isn't aware, Uncle Hugo's is an independent bookstore in Minneapolis. It got burned down on like the third night of the George Floyd riots in 2020. I think what bothers me even more than the fact that it got burned down were all of the people on the internet who are defending literal book burning because they're so unwilling to criticize people who would burn down the bookstore in this particular case. Because like you can separate the issue of what the police are doing and police brutality versus not torching a bookstore. These are separate issues to me.
If you're defending crimes because of your team sports, then you need to take a step back. Yeah. And take a good long look in the mirror.
And it's not even just like general, it's not even like a crime against the government. This is like a private business. Uncle Hugo's didn't do anything to anybody. They didn't have anything to do with the Minneapolis police. At least when they burned down a police precinct, it made sense. You're mad at the cops, so you attack a police station. Okay, I can follow that. I'm not saying that's what you should do, but at least makes sense. Well, I'm going to torture
a real insurrection, Mike.
I saw one dude say something to the effect of, "Well, why was there a bookstore in a black neighborhood anyway?"
I remember that guy.
Because they read
I was like, "What? I was like, and then this is one of like the champions of the downtrodden here, one of the self-appointed, like, good people. Hey, is that wind hitting the microphone? I just realized. Does that make a noise?
Teeny bit. It's not bad.
Okay, let me.
I said it wasn't bad.
It's just the first day that's not 90. So.
First, it was the chair squeaking on Ricada. Now it's the window.
Hey, I got a new chair though. Listen.
Oh, Mr. Fancy Pants over here with his new chair.
Yeah, it's an Aaron. It is fancy.
La-di-da.
Yeah, I was like, this thing was like good rifle money. I mean, it wasn't even. Yeah, it better last.
Well, if you attach a rifle to it, then it's just an accessory. So,
sadly, my writing desk gun is just a it's a pistol caliber. So I just got a CZ Evo in my desk drawer. But it fits. It fits nice, and so it's great. I do need some office rifles though.
At one point, I had to stop and like I have too many loaded guns in my desk drawer. This is ridiculous. And so I had to.
Wait.
What do you mean?
I know I did not just hear those words come out of your mouth.
I only got 2 hands. All right.
There is still no such thing as enough data.
Yeah. But Larry, if you are going to sell office guns, you need to paint them all red and put swing line on them.
What I need to do is I need to coordinate with Bridget, and she can do like Jesse James, like Jesse James's mom did after he died, where for like 30 years after his death, she just kept selling Jesse James's guns.
Yeah.
So there's like 8,000 guns out there that have provenance that they were Jesse James's guns.
See, that's not a bad idea though, because you remember at the gun store back in, this was like, 2007, I think. Remember that all those used guns we got in from that estate sale? Guy was like a prepper, and he'd spent the 80s and 90s buying dozens of AKs and ARs. And
dude, it was one of the best collections. I mean, the guy died, but it was like one of the greatest collections ever. So he won. He won.
Died before the world ended, and then he had all of these guns that he'd never fired.
Some sweet Valmays. And a bunch of Valmays.
His family didn't want them, so they ended up getting sold probably at a loss in an estate sale. So there's no way we got out of them what he put into them. There was a lesson in that to me about, there are a lot of guns that I want, and there are a lot of guns that I wouldn't say no to, but I have to be honest with myself. Like, would I actually really go out and shoot this? Or is it just kind of a novelty that would wear off and it would just go in the case and never come out again? So I try to balance it like that.
I personally look at it that every gun I buy and accumulate, I can say that I'm stockpiling for the end of the world like a prepper, or I can just say that I get an endorphin rush after about getting a new gun and playing with it, and just be honest with myself that I think it's badass and fun, and then I like looking at it occasionally. I'm a simple man. I won't lie. I love this stuff.
No,
that said, too, though, I have my son, my Joe, and I can say his name. He's old enough. Joe. He's my gunsmith boy.
He can defend himself.
He's fine. My guns will go to a good home. I have no doubt that my kids are going to divide them all up. Hinckley's already claimed my STI when I die. Like, she's taken that. And so my kids have actually all kind of divvied up my firearms as like who's stealing what. I'm not worried about my stuff getting sold like that just because my kids are too hardcore. So I'm not too worried.
What does Faust get?
Oh, Faust just chews on my range bag. We'll just give him permission to chew on the range bag, and he will be so happy forever. Dude, I shot my range bag. I had this really awesome.
That'll show it.
Well,
there's a receipt machine in it, so
and all the years I've never had an ND in my life. I was actually zeroing a bunch of rifles one day. So I'd gone through and mounted scopes on some miscellaneous guns, and I was doing just 0 day. And so I was laying prone. I was at 100, and I would just have the stack of rifles on a tarp next to me. I was taking a rifle, and I'd get it set up. And I was using my range bag as my rest. And I'd gone through several rifles, and then I got to this stupid gun that I own. I have a Keltec RFB, the bullpup. Well, I've been shooting a bunch of 16 and 20-inch ARs off this range bag all day, right? So I get to this RFB that's a bullpup. It's like super short. And I set it up on my range bag just like everything else that I shot that day. You know, I get all in and like, you know, bang, foam. Because it squished down and it was like 6 inches shorter than anything else there. And I just clipped my range, just skimmed the top of my range bag and blew the zipper right off. Yeah, this is a really sweet range bag. So now I have shared my shame with the world.
Authors posting L's. Yeah.
No, I mean,
speaking of dogs, though,
you could have tried to remake the Shinzo Abe shotgun like Brandon Herrera did.
Dude. Okay, I watched the Brandon Herrera video, and when he set it off, and he's just behind a garbage can. He can set it off with a wire, so he gets a 3-foot wire. He just built a homemade
and he's behind
directional claymore.
Did you see Angry Cop's reaction to it?
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Oh, I didn't see the reaction.
Because he's behind, you know, he's hiding behind a blue plastic barrel, which and the top of his head is sticking over. You know?
He's got nice hair. It'll just protect him. He's got. I mean, it's you can detonate it with a wire. You can get like 50 feet of wire. You know, he's got 3 feet of wire, and he gets behind a plastic bucket, and then the second shot when he didn't tighten it back up, and it launched the pipe back like a spear.
What happened to the other barrel?
It doesn't help that he filled it with smokeless powder. I'm pretty sure the actual shooter in Japan homebrewed some black powder.
No, he homebrewed the black powder.
I think so. There was a lot of smoke, a lot of white smoke when he shot, right? And
Yeah, no, I'm saying Herrera made his own black powder.
Oh, he did?
He commentated like you can just go out to your hardware store and pick up all this stuff, or like all your grocery store stuff. And he's like mixing the saltpeter.
And he must have really, really used the P for plenty formula on when he was loading that thing. So.
Well, when you make that much black powder, you want to use it all. So.
You got to use the whole thing.
Yeah. Dude, that was a great video though. I was like, dude, if you're gonna die on YouTube doing something cool, it might as well be this.
So, like, my thing is, when I saw it, I was like, all right, he already uploaded the video, so obviously he survived to edit this and all that.
So it wasn't like a tragic final video?
Yeah.
There was
like one of those TikTokers that dies.
There was like some instructional value in that, though, I think, in the sense that learning how to use cover, like use it for real. There's a difference between how you see guys at like matches using cover and then people who are actually being shot at using cover.
Oh yeah.
So
at matches?
Which one of my favorite lines in Monster Hunter International, the first one, right? And it's such a stupid favorite line to have, but it's when they're in the swamps and Earl is just like, sort of like correcting a bunch of the newbies. And he's like, Al, like, yeah, you're behind cover, but just, you don't need to be right up on it. Just come back a little bit. And I was like, because I read this while I was deployed. And I was like, I can't tell you how many times I've had to tell people this. And somebody gets it.
Yeah, I had a good teacher. I've never done anything exciting, but I did have some good teachers. Mike knows who I got that from. I got that from Marcus. So we had some legit dudes. I learned a lot from, and I stole all sorts of good information that I thought could fit into the books.
Marcus was a special forces officer, and he was a friend of the gun store back in the day. He's the one that told me about using a Broco torch to cut open hatches on a ship. Because I had him using a flex linear shape charge, which probably wouldn't be a great idea in the confines of a ship if you didn't want to.
But to be fair, you love bombs. Mike loves bombs.
Well, I knew what a linear shape charge was. I didn't know if they actually would use torches or not, but they did. So he told me about the kind of torches.
Generally speaking, for ships, they use torches.
Yeah. So, and the Marines would know that, and you got fat accountant from Utah and a bomb guy. Between the two of us, we didn't know that.
Bomb guy in the Air Force. So
not a lot of high seas ship takedowns.
I didn't move to the desert and the mountain region and join the Air Force because I love the ocean. So
in case anybody clips this, Mike was EOD. He's not just some mad
Oh yeah, yeah. I should specify.
Like a Unabomber type guy.
Yeah, we should specify for the internet that Mike was in a professional capacity and had a security clearance.
And all those.
To our knowledge, he does not regularly wear light gray hoodies and aviator sunglasses.
I should though.
Yeah, you should.
You'd look good.
I had prescription aviators when I was in high school because I thought I was a student. I was a pilot back then. I was flying an airplane. I was flying solo like my senior year in high school.
Oh, yeah, like that. Now there
ladies,
you go.
ladies.
Yeah.
No, this is actually this is for my boy Andrew, who's convinced that I am the critical drinker. And I'm like, dude, I look nothing like him. So this is just to show him that even when I wear aviators on stream, I still don't look like Will.
Yeah, I don't think you could quite do the Scottish accent.
No, absolutely not. But I will drink until I find out. So
Yeah, I can't do accents. Every time I try to do accents, it's pretty pathetic. So
I can barely do an American accent. All right, like
I save it for role playing games. That's about the extent. Because it's like
That's
an
how
agreement to
women
be
get
silly.
I
Well, I
like
can't-
how you inventing Krasnov for a role playing game turned into this whole big thing about Pineland and Krasnovia and.
Well,
Well, I
Krasnovia was actually the NTC opposing force.
Yeah, you know Sean Patrick Hazlitt. I did his podcast a little while ago. Good dude, a big friend of Bayan, and that was his last job. He was a professional bad guy at the NTC. He was a professional fake Russian. Like I want to say, like armor commander, and just had a lot of fun.
So my favorite part about that is that all four of us know that Krasnovia is an OPFOR country for the special forces training and the Q course and all that. Facebook doesn't.
Nope.
Because
No.
How do they know anything about
Facebook multiple times for talking shit about Pineland.
Yep, because people don't realize this, but one of my side gigs is I am the UN ambassador for Krasnovia, and self-appointed, and I am speaker of the Krasnovian people, and I proudly represent. I'm half Krasnovian, and I represent the Krasnovian people.
And
I have a Krasnovian waffle hound, and I whenever possible, I would talk trash about Pineland because the filthy, disgusting Pinelanders who are just the worst, just in a good need of an invasion. And every time I've made a crack about Pineland, I got banned. But that all started because Phil Woolrab was writing a thing and putting up snippets, and somebody got mad at him because he had some of his fictional countries were doing stuff, and this guy got upset thinking that it was sounded like it was real countries doing, like there had been a terrorist event. And so we were sort of having fun with it. So I jumped in and appointed myself ambassador for Krasnovia, and I started talking about how the Pinelandian pig dogs deserved it. And my people got a bad rap. We weren't behind this. We stand with the people of New Saxony in this time of their need. And I was like, I think the line that got me banned was, at first I was like, Krasnovia is a peaceful land. We're mostly known for our love of artisanal sandwiches and genocide, but mostly sandwiches. And then I referred to Pineland as a bunch of pig dog rapists. and apparently, no, goat rapists. I referred to Pineland as goats, and Facebook banned me for 30 days. So then my wife and I started doing videos from the gulag, my son has a big Ushanka hat. So I put the big Ushanka hat and do my bad accent and and give reports from the gulag. And then we staged a great photo of when I was freed. She stood up on a ladder like it was a helicopter, and I was coming out into the light. It's been a running joke for 4 years now?
It's been a while.
Oh my
Almost as
gosh!
long
You've been banned every time you do it. Like the only reason I haven't heard any Krasnovian propaganda coming from you is because you've got a Kickstarter going on.
Yeah, I'm on my 13th 30-day ban, but I had the Kickstarter, and I was like, when I got
more
up,
than a year. You realize that, right? Like you've spent more than a year banned from Facebook.
yeah, for real, and that's actually over the last 3 years. I spent half the time banned. I hate Facebook so much, but I hate to say it, I actually make money off it, as far as marketing purposes. So I got to figure out what to do, because when I'm banned and I have a book release come out, I actually sell fewer books because people don't know about it at the time. And as much as I hate Facebook, it is where I predominantly interact with. Because Twitter, nobody spends money on Twitter. You know,
Like,
It's not a real place. Twitter's not a real place.
who would
Yeah.
have thought
they
though
don't read
that
books.
10 years ago, who would have thought that would end up being, not even 10 years ago, that Facebook would end up being worse and more censorious than Twitter? 'Cause it used to be the other way around.
It's worse
Dude.
than MySpace, dude.
I get
I
away
found
with
my fucking
so
topic-
much crap on Twitter. I say so people who follow me, if you want to see me like just be my usual self, insulting people and calling them names and swearing a lot and being funny, that's Twitter. I can't do that on Facebook. If I say anything on Facebook, I am gone. And like man, the only reason this Kickstarter's made as much money as it has is because I have bit my tongue. And it's so lucky that there hasn't been any current events for the last 30 days that would require me to get political. Not a single thing.
I'm still convinced the reason I haven't been banned on Facebook is I use long words and the bots can't read.
Yeah,
That's actually pretty fair.
that's true. If you actually, I've found that, okay, the secret to insulting people is don't use any of the common words.
Yeah.
And also don't tag them. Like when you reply to somebody, it puts their name there. Then if they report that for harassment, you're gone. Like no matter what you say, you're gone.
That's how Pete gets past it. He insults people in Latin. So it's like,
smart. See, I need to be bilingual.
Cicero quotes that are like just the most savage shit ever. If the rap artists ever find out about it, they'd be using it left and right, but nobody ever fucking bans them for it. Me, on the other hand, I think I've gotten you banned more than I've gotten myself banned. Because
there's been a few fights that I've gotten involved with you. No, we're on the same for the people watching. We're on the same side, but there's been a few where I've gotten sucked in, and Kupla Presto's like, "Hey, Larry, check this guy out." And I'm like, I'm on it.
I admit,
can't help
Larry, want to buy some drugs?
I admit I've done that too over the years. I send
have?
Larry, many times. I send Larry stuff because sometimes good material comes out of this. Good, I've helped him find good things to fisk, and it's good for him.
I still remember running across Coop in the chow hall. And so did you see where I pulled the pin on Larry and tossed him into the room on Facebook today?
Yeah, so that's actually not too many people know this. Well, first off, because not too many people know who I am. But Pete and I, we met twice. And I mean, like, we met in real life, and then we met on Larry's fan page. And we had no idea that we were the same people. Because in real life, we knew each other by call signs. We didn't know anybody's, like, real name. So then after a while, going back and forth on the fan page against some idiot, I forget what they were saying or who it was.
The list is long and
Yeah.
too long.
We message each other. It's like you seem to know what you're talking about in terms of this, common subject matter. Who do you work for? And we're like, oh, okay, yeah. Are you on this program? Yeah, me too. Hey, I'm at this site. So,
It was when somebody was going on about soft dudes being superheroes.
oh yeah, it's like, dude, I've met as many dumbasses in SOCOM and JSOC as I have the regular forces.
Yep.
They're human. They're humans, man. They
The
run the gamut.
The occasional retard even squeaked through EOD school. It happened. There was one kid that was in my shop when I first graduated. That kid was dumb as a bag of hammers. I don't know how in the hell he made it through, but he did. So,
You think dumb EOD would get weeded out pretty quick, though?
well, I mean,
Surprised.
Self-selecting.
No. The dumb EOD guys are protected because the smart EOD guys don't want them anywhere near that
That's
fucking
true.
device.
Yeah, just stay at the truck, man.
you drive. You're the driver. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the guy you want to send to play high-speed murder chess with the Taliban,
See, I remember how I met Larry. I met Larry because when I first moved to Utah in 2006, I transferred a gun through his gun store, and we were both on. It was the high road by then. Right?
Yeah, we already knew each other on the internet. That was the first time we met in person.
I vaguely remember how I met Pete. It was through
Larry, that quote needs to be a shirt for your stretch goal.
Oh, that I'm a Claymore front dumbass. That's pretty accurate.
I dimly remember meeting Peter sometime in 2013 through like David Reader's one of his Facebook groups. because we were both in that.
It might have been Reader.
And
Well, first time I met Pete in person was
Coop,
LTU, I think. think it was
Coop I
LTV.
met on Facebook like 3 years ago, and I had no idea who he was. And somehow it turned out that I am now like besties with 2 Catholic Marine mercenaries who love science fiction. I don't.
Actually, Larry, the first time you and I met was at SHOT Show.
Ah, okay.
I was there for the Force Company, and I had copies of MHI and Monster Hunter Vendetta that were actually my wife's that I was getting signed for. That was actually the first time I met you.
So it's probably that year that I was there signing at the JP Enterprises booth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. I love going to SHOT Show. I haven't done that for a while. And
I
then
don't think
Coop, I've never met Coop in person.
No.
I haven't either. I'm not sure he's real.
No, he's probably computer generated.
This could be a deep
Yeah,
fake.
I'm deep fake. I am a VTuber, so this is my anime cat girl form. That
He's
Ooh,
actually a really fat guy who just runs a Twitch channel and he's a Reddit moderator. This is a
you
big
can't
deep
say that
fake.
about communism.
Milady.
See, I have
Milady.
met you in person, so
No. We know that's not true because we talked about swords earlier and he didn't immediately correct me about how the katana was the superior weapon. Clearly not a Reddit moderator.
no.
I met Peter in person for the first time.
Well, that sounds grim.
That's
For the
ominous.
first time last year, because my wife and I drove 800 or 900 something miles to his house to adopt Penny, our dog. So,
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's where Penny came from.
Yep.
Penny's adorable.
she knows
She's
it
gotten a
too.
lot bigger since she left here.
She was 27 pounds when we adopted her, and she's like 73 now. She's topped off. She's not going to get any bigger, I don't think.
That's a
But
big
she's
dog.
73 pounds of energy.
Oh,
Yeah, Faust is 60. He was supposed to be like max out at like 35, 40, but everything that comes to my house is just large. Well, like my daughters are 6 feet tall. You know, my son's 6'6". My wife's 5'11".
yeah. You want to talk about big dogs? So I had a 125-pound Alaskan Malamute.
Oh gosh.
Alaskan Malamutes, for anybody who doesn't know, they're like the draft horse version of a husky. Like a husky's the racehorse version. Malamutes are the draft horse. So this thing, he came up to my waist. I'm 5'11", but he came up to my waist at his shoulders. Huge dog, fucking blind from birth, right? So I just have this giant fur dozer just walking around my house. And if I ever wanted to fuck with him, I would just move like one piece of furniture and he would hit it. Like, because he had this daredevil thing going on where he would sniff out the room, he would figure it out, and he could get around perfectly fine until you change one thing, in which case he's like, the maze shifted on us, and he just bounces into everything. Yeah, he still had his prey drive, right? Like, so he's basically half wolf as it is. And so I would take him out for a walk and he would hear like he caught a bird out of midair, right? Like he was on it. Yeah. So his prey drive would always kick in. And I was living in Maryland at the time. And so Maryland, they have year-round bow season, right? Like there's no bag limit just because there's such a nuisance there. It's like, yeah, if you are hick enough to have a bow, you can just like blast this entire forest. But nobody does because they're all bitch made. So everybody sees deer and just like, oh my god, it's Bandy, unless it's on the highway and they hit it and they're just like, fucking deer. So there'd be deer just all over the place in fucking suburbia, in people's backyards, in the woods out by my apartment and all that. And he would sense this deer and just immediately go running. There's no way I'm stopping him because he's 125 pounds of muscle and fur. And he would hit every tree on the way there. It didn't stop him. That guy was damn bulletproof. He could take a hit.
Oh, man,
The other-
Malamutes are tough.
The other day, my wife and I were walking Penny, and we were walking her around. There's like a road in town that goes by the lake. And there's some high grass there, and then it drops down to where the lake level is. Well, she was trotting through the high grass, and I think she saw a mouse So she bolted and almost pulled me over, and I'm wearing a 40-pound weight vest. Right? and
that's how Mike died.
And then she started doing this thing, looking for the mice. She would hop real high, like 3 feet vertical leap to like see over the grass. It was the funniest thing. But she's gotten like 1 conus mouse kill so far, and she's sooner or later she's going to get one of the squirrels on our front tree too.
Oh. Yeah, no, Faustus killed rabbits, squirrels, I don't know how many. He just goes out and eats mice. It's weird. Like chicken nuggets. We'll see him and he'll go and he'll start burrowing and it's like, and he'll see his head will come up and he's like, blah, blah, and there's like a tail. That said, if there's a mouse in the house, he just leaves it. He's like, oh, it's in the house. It must be okay. And he'll just leave the damn thing. But, you know, anywhere else, he's like a killing machine.
Penny is constantly frustrated that we will not just let her bolt across the neighborhood chasing bunnies.
You're so mean.
I remember last year at some time, she was still a little pup, but she got out of the car with me and she wasn't on a leash and there was a bunny and she chased the bunny around the house. And I go around the back of the house after her and then there was a squirrel. She chased a squirrel up a tree and then like 2 yards away, there was a bird and she went running after the bird. I was like, come on, really?
It's funny she hates birds so much, considering that she lives with one.
We had to work on that because she was. Pete remembers when we first adopted her, she was real interested in my parrot.
Yeah,
that said,
Jax is such an evil like madman, though. Like it's hard not to want to kill him.
Yeah, I was gonna say if Penny ate Jax, would Kathy mind?
Yes. Now there was a time there like. You know, well, he's really sweet and friendly, and he'll talk and he'll chirp and he'll act like he wants you to reach in and scritch him or pet him, right? And it's a ruse. I had to warn the bird vet kid about this. Like it's a trick. He wants to bite the shit out of you. But
he is a Central American warlord in hiding. So.
Allegedly, yes. Like they asked me about a quote about him for an interview. They asked me to have a quote about my parrot. And I was like, well, he said something to the effect of, well, the way he was using that white phosphorus, it was being used as a screening smoke, not as a chemical agent in accordance with the protocols on certain conventional weapons.
You can't prove it's not a war crime.
If those insurgents got their lungs burned, it's because they shouldn't have been breathing so hard.
Jax fought FARC.
I'm telling you, like, of course, Kathy would mind. Kathy and Jax pinball, like, evil ideas the way that you two pinball story ideas.
At some point, at first, there was a time there when I thought I was going to have to get rid of him because he bit Kathy on the face. Ooh. He was sitting on her shoulder and something spooked him and he nipped. And then he bit her mom once. And I was like, okay, this is not good. Right. And, but then something happened. We gave it some time and now he's her bird. There's definitely a pecking order. And I'm like, there's Jax and Kathy, and then I'm like down here somewhere.
Kathy's the alpha.
Oh yeah.
Well, you did okay considering you adopted Pablo Escobar's parrot. I mean, right. You're doing actually pretty okay.
I got him in 2012 from my ex, and I kind of inherited him, and he's been with me. We went from Utah to Colorado to Arizona to now Minnesota with that bird. He's traveled back and forth all over the country.
You're the equivalent to an old-timey pirate captain.
Right. He's been on stream with me a couple times. And he didn't go on the road with me when I was a trucker. I did see a guy at a truck stop who had like a big macaw sitting on his steering wheel as he was parked, though.
I was going to say, because if you brought him across straight lines, there would be some like federal, interstate.
There's that, and it's like that between that and the migratory bird laws. I don't know, like get me in all kinds of trouble.
You cross the line into Arizona, and suddenly all the state troopers converge on you because of Jax. You don't even know why.
They found my box of illegal nunchucks.
So, Larry, you are at $303,357.
Holy crap! A mini. Oh my gosh, dude, we've gone up like $6,000 since we've been talking. Wow. Yeah, I guess I'm a mini now.
That's all them paying to have me shut up. So it's all.
Dude, I'm gonna get like 20 copies of me and paint them in different colors.
That's the Tom Stranger convergence effect.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to modify something. I got all my different Infinity armies. I'm gonna have to put one for every different Infinity army. Have a Larry in it. That's pretty baller.
Well, no, like Coop said, now you're gonna have to build the Tom Stranger layout where all the Larrys from the different dimensions and universes are having the Larry convention, the multi-dimensional Larry convention.
We could do like that Jet Li movie where we all have to fight, and then the last one is
the strongest.
Yeah, the strongest Larry.
That'd
be the saddest battle royale ever.
Yeah, and then Papa Roach plays at the end.
There'd be one Larry who does CrossFit though. There'd be one buff Larry, and the rest of us would just be like, "Oh no."
The buff Larry who does CrossFit doesn't make it to the fight because he's got an injury, so he couldn't even go.
The CrossFit Larry. The CrossFit Larry only has one minor action because he always has to spend one minor action per turn talking about CrossFit. So.
Vegan Larry didn't even make it. He was just too weak.
This would be a good time to point out once again, since it's come up before, but to everyone out there in the audience who likes Tom Stranger, you're welcome. I am the often uncredited co-creator of Tom Stranger.
Yeah.
I got the idea from a billboard in Utah for Tom Stanger Insurance.
Yep.
Right. And
we were driving down Main Street in Layton. And
I happened to show it to Larry, and I was like, whenever I see this, I misread it as Tom Stranger. And it sounds like some kind of interdimensional insurance salesman or something. And he just took that and run with it.
Hey, as far as I'm credited, to be fair, in the target-rich environment, I tell that story.
Nice.
I cite you.
I don't... Well, I don't want to say that I don't read your books, but I don't read any books, so don't feel bad.
I don't feel bad. My reading time is crap. I understand. Writers don't get to read anymore.
The last book I read was it was a Raymond Chandler book I read in December of 2020, prepping for my
not that bad
story.
So this is something that I often credit Pete with. He's the only author I know that's still able to read. He just has his schedule down pat where he's able to read 3 new books a month, publish a book a month. You can always tell there's a new book out because we do these streams and we do them every month. He's the only one that's got all this stuff down. But it's also, and it's I just saw this one Facebook post or it was a screenshot of a Twitter thing where some chick is he's like, oh my God, so wait, you're telling me I have to outline a book, write a book, edit the book, publish the book, market the book. I'm supposed to do this as all one person? And somebody's like, there's a lot of crying. I was like, Pete does this every month, except for the crying. But I don't know.
Yeah.
There's only so
I
many
saw that meme.
Code Yeller, so.
Man, some authors are just such candy asses. Oh my gosh.
This is why, honestly, whenever anybody expresses to me interest in becoming a writer, I try to talk them out of it.
Yeah.
I said, it's going to be a mountain of frustration. I know right now you see yourself as this, you love to tell stories and you love to write. It's going to become a job pretty soon once you start actually having to do it, and there's deadlines and expectations. And
well, that's
what
separates us from them, though. We actually work.
There are plenty of times in the writing process where I hate what I'm working on. I hate myself. I hate writing and feel like I've made a giant mistake with my life. And I'm not the only one. There are a lot of writers that go through that. And so you really got to ask. And it's also a good way to be poor, because for every guy who makes millions of dollars or gets a TV gig, there's some poor sap out there struggling to get his book noticed on Amazon.
It is super challenging.
Wouldn't that make you a K-list writer, Larry? Do you want to?
I used to be a K-list. I'm turning out a book a year now. I might be up into the
makes D, right?
I don't. It's funny because I wrote it, but I don't remember. I don't religiously remember what it is. It's super scientific.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know what he's talking about, it's the alphabetical list of author success. Just plug that into Google. You'll find it. It's funny as hell.
And it's funny you wrote that before George R.R. Martin personally hated you.
That's a bad honor. The only person who George R.R. Martin hates more than Larry is J.R.R. Tolkien. even though he doesn't admit it. Like,
oh, you know it. You know he is like deep down in his soul, jealous and angry.
Well, let me Aragorn's tax plan.
It's
how
like,
come there's no sex scenes in this children's book?
it did
Because he's not a freak of nature, you fat
because
bastard.
up until after 2010, nobody in the world wanted Hobbit sex scenes. The internet changed that, unfortunately, but
No, they want 10 sex scenes.
I don't remember if Larry's.
I'm pollinating so hard.
I don't remember if Larry said this first or if it was a matter of parallel development between the two of us, but Martin can write victims and thugs and nothing in between.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm the guy that came up with that, but I've been saying that for years. That's my takeaway after reading. I only read the first book, and this was before he got super famous and had the TV show, but I read the first one, and I was like, You know, he writes victims and
I made it
thugs.
through I made it through the third one, and it got worse.
So I have to disagree with you. He can write victims, thugs, and the live journal posts, but he can't write fucking books.
Well, you got me there. He does. He wrote 40,000 words crying about me.
I read
That's
I read
that's
all
half
the
a
books.
Blackheart's novel.
I read all the books except the first one. I know that sounds weird, but when I was in Afghanistan, like my team started watching the TV show off the bootleg drive. And if you've ever deployed, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right. So they had the first 2 seasons, I think, of Game of Thrones. So I saw the first season, and I didn't want to rehash what I already kind of knew what happened. So I just started with the second book, and I got all the way to the end of the books. Amazon ordered a hardcover of the last one, and I thought they were all right. It's just there's a lot of characters that don't really go anywhere. There's a lot of subplots and subplots. And at one point, though, in the I think it was the Dance with Dragons or Dance of Dragons, whatever it's called, there was a prologue, not a prologue, but like an author's note at the beginning of the book. And it started off with like, you might be asking yourself, where is John at the wall? Where is this character? Where is that character? And he had this big explanation for why they weren't in the book. And I'm like, if you have to explain to your readers why the characters they like are not in the book, maybe you should have wrote them into the book.
Yeah.
I mean,
No,
he had killed up.
I have to disagree with you as well about like nobody wanting Hobbit sex. Apparently, George R.R. Martin does. He's got a quote where he's just like, yeah, look at Tolkien. Yeah, like, nobody can imagine, hobbits having sex. It's completely out of their nature. I'm like, Sam fucking Gamgee has 13 kids. He's having sex. You aren't, because you look like George R.R. Martin. Like,
and he's got $1 billion. He's got no excuse. I mean, come on.
I mean, when you look that bad, I mean,
with him, I'm not sure it's so much a matter of his physical appearance as his personality, but
yeah.
Oh man,
like, you know he's the white Neil deGrasse Tyson, except even dumber.
Somebody clip that. If anybody knows how to record this, somebody clip that, please.
Yeah, that guy, man, honestly, and the thing that gets me about him is he's actually hurt a lot of other writers because there's all these people now who are afraid to try out a fantasy series because it's not finished yet, which sucks because most fantasy writers, they need that money. They need to sell books as they go. They can't wait till they write 5 books and then sell. No one's going to take the time to do that. So that lazy bastard has actually harmed hundreds of other writers. It's pathetic. Oh, well. I don't know.
Oh,
I've tried a couple of the big doorstopper fantasy series. I tried Martin. I got, like I said, 3 books in. So I got to the Red Wedding and said, this is garbage.
Well, it got to the point where there were no more likable characters because he killed off all of the likable characters. Yeah. And then by the last book, he's trying to introduce all these new characters that you don't give a shit about. And it's like, oh, here's this new guy. Like, I don't care because you're just going to kill him off anyway. Who cares?
He wrote the whole thing as a big gotcha, and that's why he hasn't finished it. Because a gotcha is not a story.
Yeah. If they wanted to give me $5 million, I'd write that last one for him. No problem. Oh, actually, I have an evil plan, and it's probably bad karma, and I probably shouldn't do this. But I really, really, really want to finish the Son of the Black Sword series. It's 5 books. I want to finish it, and I want to dedicate the 5th novel to George Martin. Because I know his next book won't be out by then. And I'm going to dedicate it to George and say, see, and as my dedication will be like, to George, see, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
And that'll be the whole...
My entire
Wheel of Time, the death of the author, like the literal death of the author, not the bullshit fucking college course about it. The actual death of the author didn't stop that series from being finished.
No! Robert Jordan is like, all right, he knew he was dying.
Yeah.
And he knew he was dying for years. And so he's like, this is what happens.
Yeah,
And
the only thing that killed Wheel of Time was Amazon.
Yeah. I've not heard, I haven't watched it. I'm not a Wheel of Time fan, but man, everybody who has watched that show I've not heard a single positive thing about it.
I'm not a Wheel of Time fan either, but I know Shad Brooks is. And if you've ever seen his YouTube channel, he's got Shadiversary. Shadiversary, but he's also got game nights where he actually like reviews media and that stuff. And watching his soul get sucked out of him as each episode goes on, because he starts off the other guys on his panel, they're like, "Oh yeah, this is bullshit. This is terrible." He's got one base guy who's just like, "No, here's the progressive sort of like here's how they're subverting all this stuff," and he's like, "Yeah, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to take it piece by piece. If things have to change for the adaptation, I'm going to give them a chance." Like 4 episodes in, he's just like, "What the fuck?" He's like flipping tables and shit.
You know, it's been funny for me because only recently have I become aware of like a lot of like, you know, the nerd counterculture online, like Critical Drinker and Nerdrotic and Friday Night Tights and Geeks and Gamers and all that.
It's growing rapidly.
It is.
Counterculture.
Listening to these people talk about their frustrations with George R.R. Martin and not finishing the book, I'm like, Larry told you about that like back in 2014, 2015.
Yeah. Like 10 years ago, I was warning people about all this stuff. I was the voice in the wilderness, you know?
My
I always love it when people are like trying.
My entire writing career has come after the latest book in Martin's series came out.
So you were, Pete, if you remember right, you were there last year when it was like the 10th anniversary, and I put up a post for hey writers, if you want to feel good about yourself, what have you written since George Martin's last book came out? And we had like 200 of us had gone through and had put our big like compendiums of all the stuff we wrote, and everybody's like, wow, this makes me feel a lot better about myself as a writer, because we all beat ourselves up that we should be doing more. You know, that's just human nature. And that was fun. We should just do that every year.
Well, Pete's going to be leading the pack on that, except for like Chuck Tingle, but his, you know, he.
Oh, jeez.
Chuck Tingle's novels are like 25 pages, though.
Yeah, so. I was going to say, it's like at a certain point, that's not a book, that's a blog post. But
yeah, dude, I respect that guy's hustle. I respect the hustle. Can't fault him.
He was a Hugo nominee. All right, you got to give him respect.
He is a Hugo nominee. You can't take that away from him. Did you see he's actually got a contract with Tor? He's writing a novel for Tor. Like, dead serious. Which is funny, because on their press release, the Tor is like, Hugo Award nominee. And I was like, oh, now you like it.
Tor tried to fight that, though.
Yeah, I know.
No Space Raptor butt invasion. I mean,
my favorite title of his, though, was Pounded in the Butt by the Socio-Economic Ramifications of Brexit.
Yeah, where you actually, it was a love scene with the actual physical currency of the euro and the pound. The pound sterling and the euro get it on.
That was why I read that title. I just died inside because that was the greatest title, and I knew that no matter what I write for the rest of my life, I'll never have a title that good.
But this is so unlike us, singing the praises of a Tor author.
I just, it killed me when that.
Do you think Chuck Tingle will show up to the Chinese Worldcon or?
Oh, geez, I hope not, because I don't want that guy to go to the gulag.
Oh.
You know,
I don't think anybody's going to quite show up to
It's going to be funny when it gets canceled because that city's on lockdown. Yeah. That's supposed to happen.
for COVID, not for monkeypox. They are strictly against homosexuality in that city.
Okay, so I've been working on a gun book. You guys probably know about this. I just wrote a nonfiction book about gun politics.
I was going to say this is the greatest segue ever. If we go from gay
monkeypox worldcon.
But
the reason I say that is because I was comparing, because they always talk about how they always make it out like America is so violent with our murder rate and stuff. But I was comparing all these different countries' crime rates, and according to China has like almost no murders. It's amazing. Like their murders per 100,000 are like better than like rural Utah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, really, China? We totally. That is real. Just like they had. Remember they had like no COVID cases anymore. They like eradicated COVID.
Yeah.
And then like a couple months later, they're like starving Shanghai.
Larry, have you considered that it's not murder if the state does it?
Oh no, it's just managing bad assets. It's just like moving assets to the liability column, and you just eliminate them. Yeah, it's great.
Speaking of moving assets, you're not allowed to move them from the bank.
Honey.
They have tanks.
Oh, I saw that. Man, okay. Here's the thing. I'm not an expert on global geopolitics, but I think I got a feeling that's a house of cards. It's just it's good. It's going to crash.
If you paid attention to their real estate market, it has already crashed, and that was a huge part of their GDP. Was like these fake real estate companies, which would build skyscrapers in cities that nobody was buying or inhabiting or renting. And
you can keep up a system, prop it up a lot longer than it should have died. And me and Mike have had this discussion too. It's just the nature of inertia. Yeah. The bigger something is, the longer the taller the building is, the longer it takes it to fall. And I don't know. Like I said, I'm not an expert on this stuff, but that's my gut feeling is like there's a massive correction coming.
Yeah, no, it's what they're doing is like economic necromancy right now, but that's about to.
I read somewhere that for all like the problems that we have with unsecured debt amongst the people and government debt, China's situation is like 30 times worse.
Oh yeah, and guess who they owe it to? Fucking Africa.
Their debt is something like 400% of their GDP.
Yeah. For all the money that we owe China, they owe us a shitload of money as well. But they also owe Africa because like how they colonize Africa is by promising that they're going to pay all this money once this thing is built and once it's in operation and all that stuff. And once they get it built and they start taking all those resources, at the country that's hosting it is like, hey, where's our money? It's like, no. We just a little bit longer. And they keep the hand down the road, and because they never have any intention of paying them.
That's actually working in more than one direction too, because they're pulling a lot of those.
Hold up, guys! Somebody's spamming the chat for an adult dating site. Can we,
that's me. I'm trying to get some.
Love chat XYZ best adult dating site.
Well, I'm sold. That's
Larry's next book.
Wait, Chuck Tingle is in the chat. Oh my gosh!
We have a way more creative title than that.
No, yeah, his would be like way better. They would be way better.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
I just blocked them, so that should.
Yeah.
But hey, what's Coop gonna do now?
Nothing, Larry. I am a strict Catholic.
There you go. Yeah, that's right. I made you a holy warrior in Monster Hunter Bloodlines.
I know. I love that. I loved the line I gave, and I love the fact that I got a DWX, which is, thank God it's a fantasy, because that's the only way I'm getting it. But,
that's why I gave it to you, though. But I was like, by golly, at least in this universe, it's in production. Like I said, I'm still in the waiting. I mean, I told my dealer as soon as you see one, I want it. And actually, my dealer put one on order.
Yeah.
Before I called him, because he knew as soon as he saw it on the internet, he's like, "Oh, Larry's gonna want one of these." And I'm dead serious. That's how good my gun dealer Denny, if you're listening, shout out, mad props. He's the man.
Here's the thing about this: like, I'm the only non-author on this panel, but if I were to write a trilogy tomorrow, I would still have been in more books than I've written. It's like it just. Once you go viral on like memes and that shit, people fucking put you in your books. And Larry was
you were one of my you donated the charity when we did the spinal surgery. We paid for a spinal surgery. You were one of the guys that donated to charity. I've been working that list off for the last 4 years. That's how many names I had.
I was tempted to make a bullshit Indian name just so I could show up in the Saga of the Forgotten Warrior.
That would be great.
Yeah, but which got I was like, it'd be cool to show up in MHI, but I doubt it. I wonder if I'll show up in Malcontents. That's a great series, but he could have another book in there, and then Privateer Press lost their fucking minds.
Yeah, so, I've not done anything with them just because there's not been anything. People ask me, "Are you going to finish that series?" I was like, "No, it's not my IP. I wish I could. I love that story. I love the characters I made, but
I love that story, and it to this day, you've convinced me that Ray Porter is the greatest audiobook narrator. Mark Boyette's a close second.
He did a good job. Ray did a good job on that.
Yeah,
he was awesome.
And that brings me to another thing that's actually on topic, unlike the last hour. When you're writing action scenes, you have mentioned previously on many occasions that once you figure out how to write for audiobooks, like writing dialogue is a lot easier because you don't have to put in all these bullshit tags of like this character said or this character inflected or whatever the fuck that authors use as synonyms. Like, you don't have to do it because once you get the character voice down, people know who's doing it, and it comes out in the audiobook.
Yeah, totally.
Now, when you're writing action scenes, does the audiobook version sort of pop into your head and you're thinking, like, how is this going to be read? How is the narrator going to keep the mood?
Yeah, I've actually gotten to the point now where I read a lot of I read almost all my dialogue out loud, but I've now gotten to the point where I read most of my action sequences out loud too as I edit. And I've found that
Trent Talenko, writers on topic. Are you sick, Coop? I'm not a writer, so I get to be on topic. So yeah. Continue, Larry.
No, so I don't know. I read them out loud, and it's like it usually will tell me if the inflection is obvious. I know a narrator is going to read this and take it in a really obvious way. I'm probably good. If I get to something, I'm like, ooh, that could be read a couple different ways. I have to clean it up. I don't know. It's kind of like almost like writing an interactive screenplay almost without being able to just like cheat and write a screenplay. So yeah, no, I'm so lucky that I got good narrators that even if I wrote trash, they'd probably still make it sound pretty good. Those guys are pretty awesome. Oh, no. Okay, Evil Penguin's asking, so serious question, what is everyone's opinion on doing product placement in books to try to get freebies?
Don't bother.
If you get paid or you get the freebie, it's worth it. Like,
I remember at SHOT Show 2008, we were at the Smith & Wesson booth, and I told them how prominently one of their products featured.
I was with you. We were together.
I know. And the guy was like, oh, okay, well, you can do that. As if letting me know that they weren't going to sue me for it. That's what you get. You get nothing.
No, to be fair, that said, that was in 2008. We were noobs. Since then, I have actually had some pretty lucrative things because I've gotten some pretty awesome deals or free stuff for putting it in books. And so, I mean, I don't want to out anybody, but like basically if a gun shows up in a Monster Hunter book now, I probably have it.
I'm still trying to get the Cazador, but it's like
I mean that's how I got the Cazador.
It's an expensive gun. So.
Yeah, and that gun's super expensive. Accessorizing that gun was more expensive than most guns.
Yeah,
I've gotten more stuff from my gun article side hustle than I have. I've gotten gear. I've gotten 2 firearms. Yeah.
So starting out new, no, it's totally not worth it. You don't get anything out of it. Just have fun. To where I'm at now, I actually get a lot of stuff. It's actually kind of badass. I don't want to like out anybody, but I got some pretty wicked cool stuff recently. And actually, I got one because the marketing dude read one of the Monster Hunter novels, and I had one of his guns very prominently displayed, and he contacted me. He's like, man, he's like, let's hook you up. And I was like, sweet.
Well, you've done SHOT shows just as an author. Like you've had a booth just as an author. As
Well,
opposed
actually,
to,
I've never had a booth as an author, but I've been like invited by other companies that were there.
yeah.
So like 1 year back when it was STI before Staccato, I did a book signing at the STI booth for when they built a custom pistol for me. I did another one year for JP Enterprises when they built the Cazador. And so every now and then I'll go back to SHOT Show and do that. And it's pretty fun, actually. It's kind of cool to go and have your badge, and people. It's funny now because when I was new, like talk about 2008, nobody knew who the hell I was. I was just some guy. But I go now to gun company booths, and I either get like they have no idea who I am, or I walk in and they're like, "Oh crap, it's Larry Correia," and they get all excited and I can just tell how much they read.
Czech, right? Yeah.
Say what?
Some reason they're all speaking Czech.
Oh, dude, now the Czechs. I am a freaking rock star in Czechia. Holy crap. That is the only place in the world where I legit get rock star treatment. It is freaking awesome.
Yeah, you need to give your character like a modded out, specialized VZ58.
Oh, dude. I kind of want a CZ Bryn anyway. I should probably give somebody a CZ Bryn. I need one of those. See, I'm really hoping that when they get their crap together and they see that the Vatican Guard Lopresto had a DWX, they will feel the need to give me one.
Right?
No, I have actually featured the VZ58.
Dude, VZ58s are fun.
I've never actually gotten to shoot one, but yeah, it was Frozen Conflict. They got some VZ58s.
They're such a sexy gun.
They're fun. They're fun to shoot. They don't actually feel like an AK. Like you'd think they'd feel kind of AK, like they don't. They're actually. We had one back at the gun store, and remember, Mike, it was super left-hand friendly because Mike's a lefty.
Kind of. You can't reach the magazine release left-handed because it's got like a metal plate in front of it. But the rest of the controls
if you're right-handed, you can't reach the selector switches either.
Yeah, so it's equally unfriendly for both lefties and righties. That's a very communist design.
It shoots good though. Like they're fun to shoot. I was pretty gee-whizzed. Now, I'm a CZ dork, too. I do like a lot of CZs, I will admit. I'm a hipster. I'm a gun hipster. I bought a CZ P10F yesterday.
I bought a CZ 97B back in 2002.
There you go.
I still regret selling, and apparently they discontinued it now. They finally, this year, they discontinued the CZ 9745.
Dude, those were fun.
They were very nice.
I had one of those, and I wound up selling it to George Hill because he loved that gun.
But the internet decided that 9mm is the only cartridge anybody needs now, so
I buy it in bulk.
See, I'm a huge CZ fanboy. I'm all about the CZ Master Race, which is why I wanted the Dan Wesson, is because you've got the best trigger, which is the straight pull 1911 trigger, with the CZ hand grip, the greatest hand grip known to man. Yep. And I was just like, this is my gun. Dan Wesson read my fucking mind and made this gun, except they didn't. They designed it and they marketed it, but it's still there. So, Larry, thank you. You were able to give me a DWX shortly before I died in the tunnels of the MHI complex.
Your best bet might be to settle for the CZ Shadow 2.
Yeah.
That's quite the settling there.
Yeah. You'll have to struggle through with it somehow.
You could have this hybrid Frankenstein gun or the match gun to end all match guns, the race gun of everybody for like a 5-year period before now everybody's doing the staccato or whatever it is.
Yeah, the Shadow too is, man, that thing is nice. I bought the P10F because it's actually for my son. Because Joe's been going to pistol classes with me, and he's 17 years old, and he's hanging in there with like all these really experienced shooters, but he's running just a CZ P10C, like with irons, so like regular base irons, and where the rest of us are out there with our friggin' dot guns. I mean, I was running a Beretta LTT with a RMR on it, and my son beat me on a couple things. And so I was like, man, I'm a bad dad. I need to like step this up, let my son represent. So I got
no son of mine is going to be running that trash.
Well, actually, it's kind of great. So last time I was in a pistol class with him, we were shooting this one drill, right? And so it's the kind of drill where one person shoots at the time, the rest of the class watches. So nerves. And it's my son shoots and did pretty damn good, right? I go to shoot. and I immediately flub it right out the gate. Like I screw something up, and a buddy of mine who's super experienced knew that I had flubbed it right at the beginning. So, and he knew that my son was going to beat me. So he pulls his phone out and he points it at my son, and he's just waiting for the second that my boy realized that he'd beat his dad, and he got a picture where my son's like, oh, so then Matt, my buddy, Matt Guest sends it to me, and it's got the caption, "The future is now, old man."
Yeah.
I mean, because I'm pretty proficient, but he smoked me on this one, so it was just awesome,
The only new handgun that I've gotten really that gave me like a want bad was I got to play with one of the new Colt Anacondas.
Oh, those are nice.
I was skeptical when I first heard about them, but then I handled it, and I have never felt a production revolver with a trigger like that. It's incredible. And they're not so outrageously priced that they're out of reach. They're like $1,500. It's not like, oh, I want to buy one of those Manharins that are $4,000, or
those Manharins are nice.
Did you ever
shoot
the old Anacondas, Mike?
I have never shot. No, that's not true. I shot a friend's Python once. That's it. Because I wasn't old enough to buy handguns until 2002, and by then the Anaconda was only in sporadic production. Even then, it didn't have a long production run.
I've not shot one of the new ones. I've only played with them in a gun store, but man, the polish job on them is nice. They look good. They look really, really good.
It looks good. It's got a nice trigger, and they made it even beefier than the original Anaconda. They gave gave it a longer cylinder so it could take the really beyond Sammy spec heavy bullet loads.
Dude, with you being a revolver guy, honestly, that's probably the coolest thing right now.
Being left-handed, I don't like the cylinder release, but I can live with it.
Well,
dude, that's the Mandarin though. The Beretta one, the one Beretta imported. Holy crap, it is nice.
So, Mike, if you put a left-handed Colt Anaconda in one of your books, you might get the freebie that we're talking about.
Well, CZ owns Colt now. Isn't that just bizarre if you think about it? But
that is bizarre. And
I love it though.
But so far they're doing a better job with Colt than Colt's done with itself in like 30 years. So
yeah.
I mean,
I love it. Pretty high bar there.
Well, that was like I got the Browning high power before they got discontinued, and then Springfield picked them up.
Yep.
But when I say I got a Browning high power, I'm not talking about one that like the Browning company is selling. I got an FN high power from 1946. So it was like 1 year after they took the swastika stamp off. That's
Dude, the new FN high power is badass.
Yeah.
The new production one. And they just took the high power and just beefed it up. It's pretty sexy. I'm gonna wind up with one of those.
Not too long ago, the high power was kind of dead, but now Springfield and FN are making them new.
Yeah.
And now.
Well, me and Mike have a buddy named Wes Dahl, who is the biggest high power nut in the world. I mean, Wes has got like every model high power ever made. I'm sure he's like freaking out over the new ones. I haven't talked about it yet, but this dude, and it's a guy he owns Privateer Leatherworks. He's the guy that makes the holsters for Privateer. And Wes is such a stud. But yeah, that guy loves friggin' high power. So I bet he's in heaven this year.
Well, he's got like 6 of them, so he was all set anyway. But I'm glad they brought it back though, because there is enough. The handgun market's big enough to have a little variety. Not everything has to be another striker poly, just same. They can do something a little bit different here and there, and I'm glad to see because there's a market. There's like retro guns are a big thing now. There are dudes out there who are buying brand new ARs with carry handles and mounting aim points on top of them, because it's cheaper to do that than it is to buy one of those $300 2.5-inch mounts.
Don't forget Brownell's whole retro line of.
Yep.
I would actually like to get a reproduction of an M16A1, because that was the first centerfire rifle I ever shot. Was a National Guard M16A1 when I was 17.
My son is building ARs, so Joe's building ARs now for fun. That's how you keep your teenagers out of trouble. If you want to keep your teenagers from premarital sex and drugs, you just get them building ARs for you. It's way
While you
cheaper.
were having premarital sex, I was studying the gun builds.
So that's my justification to have cheap gunsmithing in my house now. I'm terrible at that. But he built a 20-inch kind of. It was originally an A2. Then he went with the detachable carry handle and the triangle sight, and then he put triangular handguards on it. So it's this weird bastardized pseudo A1 and a half.
Here's the thing, though. Like my issue M16 when I was in the National Guard was an A1, but they'd been retrofitted with all around handguards. But we had some vintage ones in there too. We had Colt. Mine was a GM Hydromatic, and we had some H&R ones too, right?
Oh my gosh!
And the only ones
belongs in a museum.
The only ones I saw that were better than that, like one day in my Air Force Reserve unit, I was doing a man day during the month, just to put in some hours, right? And they were inventorying the armory, and the military doesn't ever throw anything away, for the most part, right? So we had these old M16s we were going over. Some of them was a Colt's AR-15 overstamped to M16A1. It didn't have it had a chrome plated bolt carrier. It didn't have a forward assist, and the serial number started with 00. Another one was like a Colt's Armalite. Like, this gun would be worth thousands of dollars on the collector market, and it's just sitting in some armory, never going to be issued. We'd probably end up giving it to some third world country.
That's the kind of gun that, like, Ian McCollum should do an episode on, Oh man, that would be badass.
It was interesting, like, and it was pretty much pristine condition. But believe it or not, Air Force Reserve guns don't get shot a whole lot. So,
shocked. Hey Pete, how long do you usually run for?
What's that?
How long do you run for on time?
It depends. We've done an hour and a half. We've done 2.5 hours.
Okay.
We go until we run out of steam.
Okay.
Or somebody leaves the house.
Which for me is going to be pretty quick here. No, it's been a long day. Or long month.
Writing action scenes.
Reminded
me of a certain panelist at LTUE a few years ago.
Oh, yeah. I know where this is going. Let's see. You were there. Jim Curtis was there. I think Law Dog was there. And so we were on a writing action panel, and there was a girl. I won't talk too many details about her, but she said something to the effect of, this author said, I know all about the stress of combat and how to write combat and realistic combat scenes because I play a lot of video games. And, like the stress of going on a raid in World of Warcraft is just like the stress of going to war in real life. And as she's saying this, I looked at the audience and I remember it was Peter Nealon and Jim Curtis. And so guys that have done some friggin' high stress stuff in real life. And then my daughter, who at the time is like 15 years old, right? And I just looked, and all three of them had the same exact facial expression, which was, just like, what the?
Oh no, he fucking didn't.
Are you fucking kidding me? And
Larry was up at the table, and he went halfway to a double-handed face palm.
I was like, what? I was like, are you? And she was dead ass serious. She honestly believed that crap. And I was just like, holy shit. And I'm like, I can't remember how I responded. I think I tried to be diplomatic.
There's only so much diplomacy because combat is what happens when diplomacy fails. So,
and I was like, oh my gosh, no. And I was like, just it was funny though because it was like the recon Marine, the guy who like naval aviation submarine hunter, and a 15-year-old girl, and all three of them had the same I call bullshit expression.
Yeah.
The fact that the 15-year-old girl realized how full of it she was just priceless.
It's a funny thing people talk about, what they imagine the stress of a situation like that to be. And
it's just like World of Warcraft.
Well, it's weird because you know,
if you met my platoon, it kind of is. If you've seen that Leroy Jenkins meme, like
my
I'll get back to that once Mike's done.
I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you guys. Like my tour in Afghanistan was, I had fun. Even the times where it was hard and it was stressful and it was still, I slept like a baby. I haven't slept that soundly since coming home, and it's been a decade, right? And I've gotten more worked up over this dumb shit that doesn't matter. I think I got more upset over a guy trolling me in Red Dead Online than I ever did on the battlefield over there. The most stressful job I've had recently was being a trucker. I used to have nightmares about my truck jackknifing and me killing a family in a minivan or something, because you're in this 80,000 pound, 75-foot long machine, you know, and so it's weird. It's like all these things that people say are simulate the stress of combat really don't. Yeah. But that's okay. The important, that's why so much military training is so unpleasant. Like, oh, they're going to make you do it in a gas mask for no reason. Well, the reason is they want you to be under stress so you learn to be able to think clearly in a stressful situation. That's why they keep you up so long. That's why they, you know, our EOD problems were timed. There's no timer in the real world for the most part, right? Especially if it's a conventional ordnance situation back in the States. You take as much time as you need to be safe. In EOD school, you were running your ass up and down the range, going back and forth because you were on a timer. And I actually failed a test because I ran out of time one time, right? So the important thing is not so much that you can handle the stress of combat. It's that you can think well when you're under pressure. And there's all kinds of ways to build yourself up to that. But, you know, if you're freaking out in traffic because you're running late for work and you're one of these guys who gets all road ragey, like, that's a good place to start. Like, you need to work on that. You know?
And
one of the things I can always tell, like, when somebody who's never seen combat, they've only seen the movies or the video games and that stuff, and they used a very cliched line of like, oh, time slowed down and all this stuff. When like combat vets say that time slowed down, what they're referring to is the fact that like you'll feel like you were in 30 minutes of chaos, and then after it's over, you look at your watch and it's like 5 minutes went by. That's what they mean. Because when you're in the actual firefight or the commotion, all that shit, time ain't slowing down. You feel like you don't have enough time in the world. Like you feel like you are dragging ass and everything's moving way faster than you are. And so, but because in movies and video games, when something crazy happens, you go into that slow motion bullet time shit. That's what people think by time slows down. And it's like, nah, man, that's not how I wish time slowed down. That would have been way better.
See, that's where I got the idea for in Dead 6 for Valentine's calm sense. Yeah. It was basically a bullet time mechanic. That's how it would have translated in a shooter game, right? But it was basically, it's like a fugue state or a sense of flow. And that's the reason he was so good at combat, is because he had this unnatural psychological condition that would just make it so he didn't get upset.
Right.
Unfortunately, I in my real life don't have that.
I have been in that state in combat, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it can happen, but
the thing is, and my first team leader told me this before I first went over. It's like, no, you don't know how you're going to react until that first bullet snaps past your head. But if you've trained, you'll be all right.
Yeah, because you don't rise to the occasion. You fall to your level of mastery.
Yeah.
Like that's
I'm training our asses off. So
yeah.
There's also the matter of, at least in a military situation, there's also the matter of you don't want to let your friends down. People are counting on you. And actually, I read about that in it was some short story I read in college, I think, but it's a powerful motivator. You don't want to fail your comrades. You don't want to let people, you don't want to be scared. You don't want to let them down. And you'd be surprised at what you can do when you need to, if you're thinking about that. But at the same time, you can also be surprised at how bad you can mess up. Like I'm comparing like the entire Uvalde Police Department to just, some kid in a mall whose grandpa taught him to shoot. You know,
That kid is a badass.
I'm back.
Yeah, the internet got real weird there for a minute. I don't know if I was the one that jumped out or.
it's been happening to all of us. And oh, hey, Love Chat XYZ is back. Oh, good.
Yeah, I know. We had to slow down Larry's internet for
Nice.
How's Starlink treating you?
Better. It's way better than my old crappy one. I mean, you can see out the window where I live. You can imagine how good the internet is here. I mean, Peter, I know you're in the same boat.
Yeah.
I'm liking Starlink a lot, actually. It's been way, 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 way better. I can actually play video games now.
Yes.
You know,
So
what's
how many people see where you live? They see Yard Moose Mountain, and they're like, "Oh yeah, when the apocalypse happens, I'm coming to your place."
Dude, I hate that. I'm like, yeah. You know, I that drives me nuts. Especially for it's people joking around on the internet. That's one thing that's funny. It's a joke. They're not. But it's like relatives or like people we know in real life who've like given me shit about like my crazy prepping plans and buying food storage and stockpiling, ordering ammo in bulk and that kind of stuff. And these people give me crap my whole life about that. And then they're like, "Oh, stuff gets weird." No, you're not. No, the hell you are. I'm going to go to your house and pick up everything I want and bring it back here. And you could stay. You could stay in your cesspool. No, okay, so when the internet was glitching out, there's something I wanted to say, but it was either Pete or Coop said something about you don't rise to the occasion, you default to your level of training. So lately I've been posting these videos of me shooting drills, different pistol drills on the internet. And, it's just for fun.
40 yards?
I did that one. And actually I ran it clean, 10 for 10 in 7.5 seconds. So, I'm a pretty proficient shooter, right?
Shooting from the 25 is unrealistic, though.
Oh yeah, totally. It's remember, it's 3 yards, 3 feet, 3 seconds. No, but so I would post these drills, and inevitably I always get these guys who I know never ever ever train, right? But they'll always respond. And they'll say something. Well, it's try that when the targets are shooting back. And it's like, no way, dumbass. I don't want to do that. I want to do this now, so that way when the targets are shooting back, I shoot them first.
Yeah.
Or you get the guys who's like, try that with an adrenaline rush. I was like, first off, if the whole thing takes 15 seconds, that's before the adrenaline rush kicks in. And in real life, it's going to be like, oh, there's a bad thing happening. And I'm either going to process it and deal with it, or I'm not, But these people it's always excuses to not do anything.
The biggest hurdle you're going to face in a situation like that is making the decision whether or not to do anything.
Yep.
That, to me, more than is marksmanship, because a 40-yard shot's pretty good. 40 yards is one of those distances where it's not as far as you might think, but it's farther than it seems, if that makes sense. It's both far and it's not that far, depending on the situation. But
people say it's like impossible, but you go to any parking lot that's got more than like 5 or 10 parking spaces, and it's 40 yards.
But within 15 seconds, this young man went from just poking around at the mall to deciding he was going to shoot somebody. He
was buying a cookie.
He didn't.
He was at the fancy cookie place.
He didn't dither. He didn't hesitate. He made his decision and he followed through. That's what's going to get you in most cases. It's not your draw speed. It's not how fast you can, all the things you practice for. It's how fast you can make a decision.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's a little bit more difficult to train for. Because
what's going to get me though in trouble is when something bad's going to happen. Is I'm going to freeze and wait for the beep.
It's
I'll be like, what are you waiting for?
And that's what I mean.
I'm going to check my timer.
That's what I mean. It's like it's difficult to train for because like when you go to the range and you take a class, you're going to be shooting somebody. Not somebody, that's something. You're going to be shooting. You don't expect that when you're going to the mall.
Yeah.
And
that kid.
And so like Pete was recon, I was just, line company grunt, right? And so since we didn't have Pete's ammo budget, we didn't get as much range time as we would have wanted. But guess what we did a shitload of? Is contact drills, ADRAX, and medical. Because that's the shit that you just need to be instinctive about and be like, something happened. You don't know what, but you're going to act. And so it's acquiring the information so that you can make an action. And then if all hell breaks loose, you don't need to think of like, oh, like what's he injured with? What would be the best thing? Like you already know. It's instinctive. It's muscle memory and that stuff. So we would do contract drills like on the decks of the barracks, like somebody would like fucking just throw something, and as soon as you hear that ding off the rail, it's like, hey, contact left, and you do your thing. So
but it has been a little amusing for me. Like since that incident, I've seen people online like, what do you need to do to prepare for that kind of thing? There's like somebody was talking about Timney triggers and different optics for their handguns. I'm like, this kid, his grandpa taught him to shoot. Maybe you need to go train with his grandpa. Yeah. Apparently that guy, instilled some good marksmanship skills in that young man. But if you just go to the range and shoot, that's still practice. That still counts.
How many escalation of force courses do you think Kyle Rittenhouse went through?
And yet
none. He went to his boy's house and they had a 75-yard, backyard that they would plink at. That's the only training he got.
My thing is
he had better trigger discipline and like shot discipline and situational awareness and escalation of force procedures than 90% of law enforcement ever.
Oh man, if he'd been the Salt Lake City PD, he would have mag dumped. Guaranteed. That's kind of our thing here. No, but my thing on like all the guys that are actually talking about this and trying stuff. My philosophy is anything that gets somebody off the couch and actually trying something more than just like whatever they would normally do, anything that gets anybody a little bit better, I call that a win. I'll take that as a win. I mean, I did a video the other day where I did the 5x5 drill, and I did by my standards poorly. Like I did it once that morning and I kicked ass. I was like, sweet, I'm going to record this. Let's do this again and record it. Stick on the internet. And I did it again and I was like 10% slower and 20% less accurate. Because but I was like, no, I'm still going to put it up because if it gets somebody to be like, okay, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna go run some of these drills. I'm gonna go see how I actually stack up. Then hey, man, if it gets them doing it, then I call that a success.
There are two attitudes out there that are from opposite ends of the spectrum, and they're both fallacies. I think there's the attitude of, well, I don't have to practice at all. I know I'll be able to handle this. Blah 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 blah.
Mindset.
We've all seen those guys.
I will mindset my way out of this.
You also have the other guys who are like, well, you can't. Well, you have to get all this training before you can even possibly defend. Like, you could defend yourself even if you don't ever been to a professional class. It's like they're two opposites of the same dumb spectrum of helplessness, where you either don't need training or can't do anything without it, and neither of those things is true.
Yeah,
so,
and I mean, like that's, I don't know. I've actually taken a step back from the gun culture, or like whatever the online gun culture is, just because I've seen the attitudes that people have is more. It would repel me from getting into guns if I wasn't naturally inclined towards it, or with my history. It would actually repel me from this industry and this culture than attract me to it. Because if some guy is like, for all intents and purposes, he's a fucking FUD, but he's not doing anything super dangerous. He's not doing anything like objectively wrong. If that convinces somebody to go out and like just go to the range and rent a gun and shoot it, that's a win in my book. Like you were saying, Larry, it doesn't have to be like, well, I've got rock tape all over my fucking arms and elbows, and I'm shooting this $5,000 pistol and doing it on the shot timer and that stuff. It's like, just baby step it. And if it gets them off the couch, like you were saying, Larry, and out shooting, that's a win. So like I said, unless they're doing something like extremely dangerous, like anything James Yeager has ever done, like
building a pipe gun and blowing it up 3 feet from your head. maybe Brandon.
In defense of Brandon.
I love Brandon Herrera.
I don't think you were watching that channel unless you already knew like everything that he was doing. So like, I don't think anybody saw that and was just like, oh, that seems like a good idea. Like he puts disclaimers in his videos, like, do not do this ever.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
You know, one of the first gun articles I wrote was like, at some point you have to, for most people, you're going to have to say that good enough is good enough.
yeah.
You know, doing a lot of like high intensity shooting and high intensity firearms training, that's a lot of ways it's a rich man's hobby, especially these
It
days.
is.
You know,
People say that, like, but my thing is like, I am a rich guy, but I dry fire. I probably do conservatively 100 dry fire reps for every one bullet I shoot. You know.
Yeah.
But honestly, I don't know. I think part of it, Mike, you're right. There are the two extremes where you got like the super tactical Timmy guys where everything is 5'11" and black polo shirts. You know, and if
You
you're
go to
not,
the Night of the Roxbury shit.
I had a guy
super
like
extended.
there was a guy arguing with me on Twitter, I guess, about how the kid that stopped the mall shooting, he had to have had some kind of serious training because he did good. Like
Marksmanship's marksmanship. It comes down to the fundamentals.
maybe his
Yeah.
grandfather just taught him to shoot really well. You know, it's
Even
Well,
the top
like,
tier.
Go ahead.
Even the top tier JSOC special mission unit dudes, they're not necessarily doing anything that different. Their fundamentals are just rock solid.
Yep.
Yeah, even like back when I was shooting a lot of competition, it's all fundamentals. You're just going faster, and you're consistent in your fundamentals. You know, it's you know, honestly, like the biggest thing, like, and so you take a class, and it's like a lot of times just reinforcement of like, I'm going to watch you and see what you're doing, and like where are you screwing up, and let's fix it. But it almost always comes back to the same basic things of keeping the gun where you want it while you pull the trigger. You know.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like writing. You have to do something poorly before you can do it well. And the difference is that in guns, if you mess up terribly, somebody could possibly die. If you write a bad book, then everybody makes fun of you. And depending on whether you're us or like a blue-haired feminist, the gun thing is worse.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've had some pretty bad reviews.
I mean, well, how much civic nationalism did you include in your book?
Oh gosh, Pete, that was the best interview ever, or the best review ever. You let that guy down by saying that communists were the real bad guys.
I will never forget that guy who was mad about the that anthology we did because it wasn't the fucking Turner Diaries.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
What he was mad about. Yeah,
we were all in that. Oh my gosh, that guy was pissed.
One of the first.
One second, I take an aside here, Brandon. I'm glad to see you're doing well. You take care of yourself, buddy.
Hi, Brad. Brad's good people. If you haven't read his books, go out and get his books. What was it? The Chaplain's Assistant.
Chaplain's War.
Narrated by George Newbern, the guy who voiced Superman in the Justice League, and it's
really
phenomenal.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You know, it was funny, like when they did the audiobook of Dead Six, they had he's the guy that plays Balky in some TV show. I had never heard of him.
Yeah, Bronson Pinchot.
Bronson Pinchot. And like
he's amazing.
Everybody was geeking out like this. I had never seen that show. I didn't know who he was.
Well, that show
he does tailor his accent pretty well.
I found a photograph of him on the Internet Movie Firearms database where Christian Bale was sticking a revolver up his nose, though. Not Christian Bale, Christian Slater. And
True Romance.
Yes.
No, he's actually a classically trained actor. He's a big deal dude, but he kills it in audiobooks, man. He is so good.
He does Hard Magic as well, doesn't he?
Yeah. We actually, he did so good for me as a narrator. I love every time I get that guy as a narrator. I'm super happy. Yeah. He's awesome. It's funny though because he's not a gun guy. So when he did Hard Magic, he had the 30-06, the 30-06 rifle.
I kind of ran into the same thing with Mark Boyette for The Lost, like 5.56. No, it's 5.56.
Dude, Mark was saying something. It was very little, but like. The way he says like the deleterious or something, like threw me for a fucking loop. I was like, what? That's not what that word is.
He's gotten more spun up on
Yeah.
some of the lingo as the series has
He's
gone
got
on.
to with all the Galaxy's Edge books that he's doing. Like he's the go-to guy for sci-fi, military, or the Wargate book set.
He's got gravitas to his voice.
He does.
He really does.
I'm always amazed by all the audiobook narrators, like the range of accents that they can do. But the way that he was doing the Tuakaz accent, where it's like a mix between Irish and Scottish, I thought it was really good. And yeah, he's one of my favorites. He's second there. Ray Porter is obviously my first.
But Ray Porter was Steppenwolf in the Justice League movie.
I've never really got into. I never really got into audio.
Oh, Darkseid, yeah, not Steppenwolf, Darkseid.
Personally, I never really got into audiobooks that well. When I was on the road, when I was driving a truck, I did listen to the audiobooks of the Dune series, right? Yeah. The first one was like a full-on audio production. They had like different actors for the different characters, and there were scenes where they would just be the one narrator would read the book, but then there would be certain scenes where they'd bring in the whole voice cast. And I thought that was really well done. But obviously, you can't do that for every book. It was freaking Dune.
It's got to be at least like 10 times more expensive.
Yes.
Yeah, it's got to be super expensive. They did that for, I try to remember Max Brooks's, whatever the zombie novel was.
World
War Z. So they did a full cast audio production for that. And it was amazing. Like, it was really, really good. It had like dozens of narrators.
Considering the amount of fucking people in that book. Yeah.
I will say that, for the audiobook productions of my two space operas, Her Brother's Keeper and Sins of Her Father, Allison, cannot remember her last name to save my life, was the voice.
She does really good. I'm listening to that now, actually.
Listening to her do men's voices was not distracting at all. She really pulled it off. Listening to a male narrator do female voices can be kind of, for me, it's kind of like, this is a little cringe.
But yeah, that's why she's got the Texan accent down pat and the Scottish accent.
That's why I got a female narrator for Monster Hunter Guardian, because it was a female protagonist for the whole book. And people are like, well, why didn't Oliver Wyman do that? He does the rest of the series. He's amazing. I was like, because we didn't want to force Ollie to try to do a female voice for 20 hours. But we got people mad at us because it wasn't Ollie Wyman, it was Bailey Carr. But
can't please 100% of the people 100% of the time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
No, you just gotta.
And Larry, I'm in the minority position. I thought Oliver Wyman has gotten way better as the books have gone on. The first book, though, and this went back into my question about like writing action scenes for the audiobook.
Yeah. I've gotten better at that too over time.
Yeah, but he keeps the laconic Texan sort of like the just laid back narration, which is great, except for the action scenes in the first book, especially when it opens on an action scene. You have like one of the greatest openings to a book ever, and it's just like Michael Bay level action all the way through, except with proper guns. And I'm like, he's not including the rampancy, like everything's happening super fast, it's chaotic. He's saying it like, Owen Pitwood around the fire to the kids, he's just like real laid back. But as the book went on, he continued on that. But
he definitely got more into this. Plus, we've worked together so many times now that he's got a really good handle on this series. Narrator brings a lot to that. Like, so we'll talk about Bronson Pinchot. Bronson Pinchot would vary up, because it was third person, so he would vary the action scene based upon which character was doing it. So, like, if he was doing a Jake Sullivan action scene, he would be very chill, because Jake's a calm dude. Like, everything's exploding around him, but he's solid. It's just he doesn't get emotional. But then you get Faye, and you do the Faye action scene, and she's like bouncing around like a ferret on pixie sticks. She's just like, and he conveys that. And he would just read these paragraphs like super quick, hardly any pauses. He'd be like out of breath, it was great.
There's so much more that goes into narrating an audiobook than just reading the text. It's
but that's what I want to get into is Larry's writing style in Hard Magic. It changes with the character as well. Like it's not just a narration. It's like when Faye is the narrator, or it's Faye's chapter, as it were. There's a lot more run-on sentences than when Jake is there. Jake is very like sort of like Philip Marlowe, where it's very like terse, but you describe the emotion and all that stuff. But Faye, it's like stream of consciousness run-on sentences because she's this bubbly, airheaded kid, as it were. This
and the fun thing about Faye is as the series goes on, I love writing her because we get to the end where she's so friggin' incredibly dangerous, but she's still the same person. And like I have that scene at the end where she takes out the entire battleship in like 2 minutes and 48 seconds or whatever. But I also started showing it like so there'd be these big long run-on sentences of stream of conscious, but like the elapsed time for that was like 0.6 of a second, just because her brain was just not normal.
Yeah. And you did it in Son of the Black Sword and the House of Assassins and Destroyer of Worlds, where like Asuk is very he's Judge Dredd in fantasy India, right?
Well, like so when you talk about time slowing down and how it really is. So with Ashok,
but I don't have the heart of the mountain. I'm just a fucking Marine, all right? Like,
no. But I'm saying, but you're right, and that's how it is for normal people. But like in most characters, I wouldn't do that. But when I get to Ashok is so borderline autistic, disconnected that like when it gets to an action sequence, he literally is like that. Everybody else to him is just pathetic. They're just slow, and so like stuff happens around Ashok, and he's like a guy's coming to kill him. He's like, fuck that guy. He just because he's so when I write Ashok's scene, he's just like his action sequences are different. So like I write Jagdish, he's a normal dude.
Yeah.
Like
Jagdish is my favorite character in that entire book.
Oh, I love him. I love Jagdish. That poor guy has had a hard life.
I will never forgive you. I'm not going to get into spoilers, but I'll never forgive you for what you did to him. Even though it makes for a good book.
I know. It's so freaking. He's got such a tragic story. Yeah. I love him. But then I write Rada, and the librarian, and her action scenes are like, I don't know what's going on, and everything is terrifying.
Yeah, it's so confusing and chaotic. But even when you're not doing the action scenes, like you can tell you're reading a Rada chapter because every single time she does something, she's like referencing the book that she read it in, right? Like she is such a damn nerd that like.
I don't know if you catch this, but I up the vocabulary when it's her scenes. Like she's the only character that like uses all the big words, because she's got, and Jagdish is just like, Jagdish is just a dude. He's just a normal dude. He's a soldier. War is his job, and he's just a guy. Rada is just, then I don't know everybody in there, but then like I got Devados, who's just a fucking badass. That dude's just a badass, right? Yep. And I write Karno, and Karno is almost as detached as Ashok. So when I get a couple Karno scenes in there, it's like he's just a big dude with a hammer. That's his fighting style. Big dude, hammer. I was like, oh, blip. Yep. He's just so chill.
And I noticed this too, and obviously it's more pronounced because it's two different writers. But in Dead 6, the way that Lorenzo narrates his scenes and Valentine narrates his scenes, it's enough. It's like it's the same book. Like you can tell this is a coherent story, but Mike brings his character narration, you bring your character narration, and it's not even just like the difference in voice; it's the difference in philosophy. Like the things that they're worried about is completely different.
Well, like so, Lorenzo is like all my try hard, being a douchebag nature, like all my negative personality traits. Like the guy that's combative and can't be wrong on the internet, will pick a fight with anybody. That's Lorenzo. Like he's all that.
Yeah, he has a breakdown when he figures out like he's not winning.
Yeah, no, he straight up loses his crap.
Tantrum.
One of my favorite lines of the whole book is Carl sitting there on the couch just watching him melt down and punch holes in the walls.
Where he turns up the volume on Three's Company.
Yeah, and he just knows because he's been around Lorenzo for years, so he just watches TV until the tantrum's over. And he's like, "Are you done? Are you done with your sissy tantrum yet?"
Well, Larry, now we've got you on record. Lorenzo is a self-insert. You know,
Which is funny because like I get that all the time. Like my critics are like, oh, like Owen Pitt's a self-insert. It's like, I borrowed some stuff because the accounting gun nut.
I mean,
Honestly, of all the characters in Monster Hunter, like personality-wise, I'm more Trip than like literally anybody else in that whole series.
no, because you're the only one that's, I had you pegged for Holly, but
Valentine's
to go on hey, no, when I was playing a D&D campaign, we did this. This might work.
Valentine started off as an obvious self-insert because that's the way I was just telling because it started off with just being like the very first one of those stories I wrote was not serious at all, right?
Right.
And it kind of took a dark turn by the time I got there, what became Dead Six. But over the course of the books, he really evolved into his own character. He had a lot of, Valentine does not just think about things the way I think about things, because he has a completely different set of life experiences.
Right.
And it is very different philosophy. And for him, I think his biggest challenge was just trying to accept what he was without letting it consume him. And he kind of struggled with that. And people complain that he was, he seemed so whiny towards the end of the first book. Like all of his friends and the girl he loved had all gotten killed in front of him. And he had a traumatic brain injury. Cut him some slack. God.
Honestly, I remember those.
He thinks differently than you, Mike, but like Kathy hasn't been kidnapped like 4 fucking times in the span of a month. So
yeah, I mean, people who say Valentine gets whiny is like, dude, okay, like honestly, his life had gone through some bad times. And like the only reason Lorenzo's not whiny because he's actually way less grounded than Valentine. It's just
cares about way less people than Valentine does.
Yeah. See, Valentine's actually at heart a good guy. The whole series is Lorenzo learning to be a human. And so it's like Valentine's more whiny. Well, yeah, it's like literally everyone around him has like got, had a horrible end.
Plus, he was young. I mean, don't forget the character was like, he was like 27 years old or something like that in the first book.
Yeah, we figured up as like Lorenzo was like 15 years older, and that life experience had all been being a horrible person.
Mike, I can't believe a 27-year-old mercenary. That's
so far-fetched. Who can possibly relate?
Well, I went into contracting when I was like 24, and I missed the youngest contractor on the program by like 1 year. I dropped that kid.
I dropped out of college and went to Qatar for DynCorp when I was like 23, 24.
Like, dude, meeting contractors under 25 it's a trip. Like whenever I'm feeling bad about my day, I'd be like, Trace, just come over here and tell me about your life, man. Like
I knew it was Trace.
Tell me about your silly Zoomer problems. Come on.
Well, the guy we're talking about, he's a great guy. I love him to death. I'm not trying to bring that, but he was making every mistake that a 24-year-old college kid would make, except he had contractor money to do it with.
So what was the APR on his car? Was it 30%?
Yeah.
Something I want to say about, since we were talking about different voices for different characters, some people who are like new to writing or haven't thought about it maybe don't understand the way books are expected to be written these days. For me, when I think of books, my stories come to me visually, right? I think of a scene. I'm imagining it in my head. Sometimes translating what you see into the narration can be a little bit of a challenge, because you can't just have the narrator say everything that happens. You got to think of the narrator as like whichever character the scene is about, the camera is focused in on them, right? It's their perspective, even if it's third person, because nobody will let you do omniscient narrator anymore. So, and a lot of times people who try to do it, it comes out terrible. So I understand why. But so right now, my work in progress, I have a few different point of view characters, and I got one scene right now where 4 of them are in a room together. So I got to remember which character's perspective this is from and make sure that the narration comes along, accordingly, versus just saying, well, this person said this person said. It'd be so much easier if I could just do that. Frank Herbert could do it, but I'm not allowed to do it because I'm not Frank Herbert. So
I've actually had to stretch more on the whole voice and different points of view with Brannigan's Blackhearts and Kill You On before that, because so much of what I've done is first person, and it works. And some people prefer my first person stuff to the third person stuff, but I've particularly writing some of the bad guys in Blackhearts, like Flint. Flint's a straight up psychopath. And a couple people are saying, "Man, I want to know more about Flint." I'm like, "No, you don't."
That's a good villain right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like switching between first and third because they both have they're like just different tools in the toolbox. I can accomplish different things with each one. Third, I can bounce around more different heads, but first, I can really get into one super well.
So
dude, my favorite books in the Monster Hunter series, it just so happens they're the third person one. I'm not saying like the other ones are bad. Like Legion, I didn't think that sequels would get better, but you have gotten better with each book. But Alpha and Nemesis were like some of my favorites.
Yeah, those came out really, really good, and those just required head hopping for the story.
Right.
And so I had to do third person, and it worked out super good.
Now you will see writer advice on the internet, and it's free usually, so take it for what it's worth, right?
You get what you pay for.
Never do head hopping. Well,
in one scene,
yes, because that gets confusing, right? You can have multiple point of view characters in a book, obviously. You just need to make sure the reader knows who's talking.
Yeah, when I say head hopping, I mean from scene to scene, not in one scene, because that's like confusing as all get out.
In the same paragraph.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen people do that, and it's painful.
Yeah. It's a rookie mistake, and you don't realize you're doing it half the time because you're writing an action or an exciting sequence, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens.
Yep.
And then you got to take a step back and like, whose point of view am I focusing on here? Would this person know about this other stuff going on? Yeah. And that is kind of limiting in a way because in a movie, in a scene, you can just show what everybody's doing. You can cut to the bad guys and cut to the good guys. You can show the enemy spaceship, and it can all be very fast and very fluid. In a book, without omniscient narrator, it's really hard to do. You got to really think about how you're going to do that. You end up doing a lot of scene hopping.
And it's crazier just as like a reader rather than a writer. Like you can tell when that's going on, and it immediately like just draws you back out of the story because now you're like, wait, whose mind am I in? Right? Yeah. Like it stops you from reading, and you're just like, wait, I need to backtrack. I need to figure out who's writing this. And like to credit with Alpha, I could always tell when Ryan Horst was the mind, because I was seeing symptoms of psychopathy without you ever saying that he's a psychopath. Like it was just very clear because you'd be like, it's like, yeah, according to this lecture, or this seminar that I attended, or this book that I read, you're supposed to do it this way. This is how normal people act. And I was like, this guy's a fucking psychopath. Like,
yep. I never come out and say that, but he is a total psychopath. You see it in the end of the book.
Ryan Horst is an actual person, and he's nothing like that.
Not at all.
It's like Mark Zuckerberg. It's like Mark Zuckerberg with his bottle of Sweet Baby Ray's. Sweet Baby Ray's. This is what humans do.
Yeah.
Look
into my soulless dead eyes.
Yeah, real life Ryan's actually a very nice guy.
But as opposed to that kook guy in Bloodlines, he was a great dude on page, but in real life, he's a fucking dick.
Oh, don't be so hard on yourself.
Pete, what were you trying to say? You missed it. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Like I said, real life Coop's a dick. So.
I've tried to tell people, people are like, now that, I have a Twitter now, and I've got like 800 something followers now, and people are like, "Oh, you seem like you're like a kind of an awesome guy." Like, then let's talk about managing expectations, okay, guys?
That's just me and all my sock puppet accounts.
Because if you think you're like, 'Cause I tell you, like I say, I assure you, I'm not. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, it's just self-deprecating humor, or he's humble bragging. Like, all right, but after you meet me at like a book signing and come away from it like, well, that guy kind of sucks. Don't say I didn't warn you. Right?
He misspelled his name. It looks like Larry Correia instead.
Except
Yeah,
it's written in crayon.
My versions of Larry's signature were better. I made like Korea as a dragon with like the C as the head and the I as the tip of the tail.
Trogdor the Koreanator.
Dude, I've sold so many Mike Coopery novels on book tour though, doing that. So I mean,
Well,
it's a win-win.
when Invisible Wars came out, Jesse Barrett was saying, "Oh man, now I'm going to need to get one with 9 signatures." I'm like, 9 what? Well, Larry doing Mike, Larry doing you.
Oh
and
gosh.
then all on down the
Oh
line.
God, it just turned into a story problem. Oh no.
I thought there were going to be a test later.
I just want to see Big Eddie's signature. I can just imagine the heart.
Oh.
The curly cues and the hearts.
Super
Sprinkled
flamboyant.
You know he has great penmanship, though. I mean,
Oh, I guarantee. I bet he can do calligraphy. Like that guy is artistic. I loved writing Big Eddie.
Yeah, he
Actually-
actually eats in blood.
Actually, it's funny because on a Bronson Pin show, actually, of all the characters he's played, movies and TV shows, he says that Big Eddie is some of the most fun he's ever had playing a character. And he said he screeched so hard into the microphone while recording that like messed up the studio guy.
I always imagine I didn't know about him when we wrote Big Eddie, but after the fact, I always imagine him like in the movie he would have been played by Milo Yiannopoulos. And now that if you look into some of Milo Yiannopoulos' history, that's like
Oh man.
so.
Hey Pete, I'm exhausted, man.
Yeah,
I gotta.
we've been doing this for about a little over 2.5 hours.
Okay,
so-
Larry, before you go, do you have any books coming out? You got anything you want to promote besides your Kickstarter?
Next book release is actually an anthology I'm editing with Casey Ezel. It's the second noir. So if you read Noir Fatale, so noir sci-fi and fantasy, second one's called No Game for Knights. That'll be out in September. So coming up pretty quick.
That's a very noir title.
Yeah, we straight up stole that from Raymond Chandler. And the third one's called Down These Mean Streets, also stolen from Raymond Chandler. And then I believe October will be the release of my nonfiction gun book, which I still haven't seen the official announcement on that, so I won't go into too many details about that. That's actually through a major publishing house, though, and political book, so that's why it's going so fast. And then also I'll plug Writer Dojo. If you guys want to listen to a writing podcast, it's actually not woke and fun. Me and Steve Diamond do that, and been having a good time with it. And,
yeah, if you liked the 30 minutes of this podcast or live stream that we were on topic, you will love that.
Yes. Well, I mean, me and Steve stayed mostly on topic usually, but the episodes are shorter, so we don't ramble nearly as much. That said, I've turned him into quite the gun nut over the years too, so we will diverge sometimes on those topics.
Should get Steve on here someday.
He's a good dude. He's a really good dude.
And Larry, speaking of the Kickstarter, you are at $308,927.
What?
Nice.
Dude!
Well done. Congratulations, Larry. Well
So,
done.
Oh my gosh!
We earned you
$8,000 since the last. Oh my gosh!
We
See,
earned you a
these
minimum
streams pay
wage
off.
salary just in the last 2.5 hours.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. Holy crap! Thanks, guys. Wow. No, seriously, I'm humbled. I have the best fans in the world, dude. I wouldn't trade my fans. I wouldn't trade my fans for anybody else's. Holy crap. I actually saw a review the other day. I didn't watch the whole review, but somebody was telling me, my wife watched it and told me about it. But this guy discovered the Monster Hunter Nation, and he was like, wow, because it's like this guy gets no attention. This guy gets no marketing from any of the normal book places I see. But his fans are like so friggin' hardcore. And I was like, damn right they are.
Yeah. I got one of my Marine buddies into Monster Hunter. I didn't even tell him about the Facebook group. I was just like, hey, check out this book. and now he's a member of that. So it has
Badass.
Yeah.
Badass. I honestly like a lot of my, because we sent so many books to Iraq and Afghanistan, like everybody was on a fob board. We'd send a case of books. Mike's first book signing. I remember Mike's first book signing. He was in, like middle of nowhere and set up a table, and we sent him a case of books. And it took months to get there too.
Yeah. Wasn't that at one point you were the #1 bestseller on the USS Ronald Reagan?
Yeah, so I had, because it was this one bookstore out of San Diego ships all these books to all the ships based out of San Diego, and so I was the #1 bestseller on the Ronald Reagan Carrier Battle Group.
It's because all the sailors are so sick of reading all the books about the SEALs. It was like, we hear this all the time. They're in the mess hall, just be like, so there I was.
Is there like, I'm assuming that there's like some advanced course they send like veteran SEALs to teach them how to write their self-promoting books.
Oh yeah, no, that's right after Hell Week actually.
We gotta ask Mike. We gotta ask Mike Massa. He'll know.
Yeah. Speaking of Mike, he's doing a pretty good podcast on the Terminal List.
Yeah.
Which is actually a really good show. I was not planning on watching anything by Amazon, but Pete checked it out and he was just like, "Yeah, no, it's pretty decent."
I've heard it's legit.
Yeah.
I love Mike Massa though. He's a great dude.
He really hates dolphins though.
He's got some.
It's because the dolphins swim better than he does.
I got to do a shooting class with Mike Massa. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, good, just a good dude. So I really like him.
So yeah.
Okay, so while we're doing this, Pete, what have you got that you wanna promote? This is your stream, so what you got coming out?
He just wrote another one in the last 30 minutes. So
I had 2 releases happen this month.
Wow.
Mark and Reprisal came out on the 18th, book 11 in Brannigan's Black Arts. And we actually moved up book 5 of The Lost, Swords Against the Night, which I unfortunately don't have a copy of here at the moment, but that came out just last Sunday. So, and the cover art is awesome.
Oh yeah, dude. Larry, have you seen the cover art of Swords Against the Night?
Yeah. Wait. Is that the one where there's a guy with the rifle and am I thinking the right one? Is like the monster
serpent dragon?
Yeah.
The dragon?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that the one?
Yeah.
That's a badass cover.
Yeah.
I was like, you could do another Kickstarter by like adapting the MHI squad game to The Lost, and it would probably sell just as well. It was like, I got to use my Dungeons and Dragons, giant figures against these guys.
Well, I'll say real fast because I got if there's people who are listening right now who don't normally, they tuned in because I posted about this. I recommend Pete's books. Check them out. I back when we still did book bombs before those got killed, I book bombed him before. He's a super good writer. Writes really good action sequences and just a good all around storyteller. So if you guys are fans of mine but you haven't read Pete Nealon, pick up some of his books. Check them out. They're really solid.
Yeah, you have not read fantasy like the Lost series.
Yeah, and I have not read that series, so
there are plenty of books about modern day soldiers or Marines or combatants going up against fantasy creatures. You haven't read fantasy like this one. It's a very different take than just high fantasy or sword and sorcery. It's a very dark, very Norse soothsayer around the fire. You feel the fear and dread of this sorcery. It's fantastic.
Question come up. What is a good first Peter Nealon book to start with? Pete?
Boy, everybody always asks that, and I'm never quite sure. It depends on what you're looking for. Ice and Monsters is the first of The Lost, which recon Marines thrown through the mists into this dark fantasy world that where the monsters are winning.
They wouldn't if the Marines wore glow straps.
I did ask Jason about why the glow chem lights on the belts on the cover of Ice and Monsters, which is this one right here.
I mean, it makes no sense from a tactical standpoint, but it makes the cover really pop. Like it,
yeah,
it
and that's what Jason said. It's the point is to sell books.
Amen.
But
capitalism, baby.
so yeah, there's those. I've got Black Hearts is kind of a spiritual successor to some of the old '80s action series like the Mac Bolan, Phoenix Force, Soldiers of Barabbas, which I have all but 3 of.
Yeah, it's the Expendables done right.
You know,
Yeah.
I gotta say, it's kind of sad that like pulp adventure novels have kind of died out. I remember anyone else ever, maybe somebody in the audience has read the Wingman novels. They came out in the 90s. They were about this post-apocalyptic F-16 fighter pilot who was like a super genius. They were so cheesy and they were so, but I ate them up in high school. And
Yeah.
like my junior, senior, I loved them.
It was the novelization of Iron Eagle, man. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Right?
The documentary Iron Eagle. CW
Yes.
Lemoyne will
The documentary
Mover
film.
will definitely assure you it's a documentary.
You know what the biggest problem with that documentary though was, Pete? No Tomcats.
Well, they did a Death Star trench run with fighter jets 30 years before the new Top Gun movie.
Yeah.
Did it. So it's with like a tiny fraction of the budget.
And
But
then,
yeah, man, like Mike, what you were saying about the adventure pulps, it's not that nobody's writing them, it's that nobody's publishing them. I mean, if you go into indie publishing, I'm sure they're there, but the traditional publishers, it's like, wait, you're writing a series of pulps? No, we want a trilogy and we want it to be epic, and like you've got to write this stuff before we even think about it.
I think the small indie publishers have kind of filled that niche, is what's happened. And that's good and bad, but it's good because it's getting a lot of new people in who wouldn't have had a shot in the old days, because it was anybody can just try their hand at writing now, but it's bad because it's a lot harder to get noticed. So kind of a trade-off.
So yeah, there's that. American Praetorians and Maelstrom Rising are both complete, and they're the somewhat more serious military thriller type thing. American Praetorians was my first series. Contractors against terrorists, narcos, and domestic terrorists, really. And Larry is actually a character in all 5 books, plus 1 novella.
Until he pisses you off and then he gets killed off.
Actually, Larry survived.
Yeah, I lived. I made it. I had a happy ending.
If anybody kind of wants to just get a feel for the Maelstrom Rising series, we did an anthology that I and Larry had short stories in. So consider picking that up just to get a feel for what you don't really have to have read all the books to be able to get into the stories. So
No, that was a good anthology. We had some good guys. We had some good writers in there.
there's a lot of talent there, yeah, and I think it came out well.
I think so. I thought it was pretty solid.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. I had fun with mine. Mine was a kind of an oddball story. I wrote from the perspective of like one of the jackasses that got us into this trouble to begin with.
Larry, speaking of oddball stories, have you gotten your copy of the Black Tide Rising?
No, I have not got my physical copy. However, I got the early version of it, so I could read it and do the back cover blurb.
Yeah. So I bring this up because Pete reminded me with the Maelstrom Rising stuff. If you want to see like Swiss Family zombie killer instead of Robinson, of like a flotilla of pirate zombie killers, that is the book for you. It's based off of a John Ringo a book series called the Black Tide Rising series. The first book is Under the Graveyard Sky, and these enterprising individuals went out and made a graphic novel series adaptation of it, and I'm glad to have it. I definitely recommend trying to get your hands on it. So, but I have a soft spot for it since a lot of it takes place on the USS Iwo Jima, which was the only LHC boat that I served on. And if you want to see good naval surface BBSS action series, the Maelstrom Rising series delivers in spades. So,
sorry, Faust just came to check on me.
Yeah.
it's because you're hiding. It's because you're hiding a waffle under your desk.
Well, what it is he's half shepherd, and
Yeah.
so he like knows like certain times of the day the humans should be certain places. So he comes and he actually herds us. So like if I stay up late playing video games or something, he'll come get me like this. He's like, "Hey, it's time for bed," and he'll like push me. He does this to my wife. He likes to have all the humans in like one room. Oh, hey, it's Penny.
Oh,
Penny. This is Penny, our rescue dog.
She's gorgeous.
she's not as interruptive as Jax was that once.
Well, like Larry's dog, she likes to know where everybody is.
Right.
She gets upset if Kathy and I are in separate places because she can't watch us as well. Like if one of us is in the bedroom and one of us is in the living room, she'll lay in the hallway, kind of where she can keep line of sight on both of us. Very protective like that.
Matter she doesn't trust you.
She's very kind of a Velcro dog. She's got to go everywhere you go. We already did. Hey, Coop, you're not a writer, so you claim, but
I write Facebook posts, but I mean, like,
do you have anything you'd like to promote? Anything coming up? Anything you want to tell about yourself? Because you're kind of like the man of mystery here.
Which one? So I mean, like, I'm looking at getting into the game myself, and all I can really say about it is that I've watched enough Star Trek to where like the warrior race, the Klingons, always get their asses kicked by the humans to the point where I'm like, they're not really the warrior race, are they? So I'm looking at like a cyberpunk sort of. I don't even want to call it sci-fi because it's the whole point is to take a look at all the technobabble and be like, this is just fucking space magic. So embracing that wholeheartedly, I would call it a space pulp. But
Nice.
Looking at it where there's interstellar, societies that the humans have just sort of muscled their way onto, and the humans are the warrior race, and everybody else has realized that, and the humans have figured out how to monetize that. So,
Cool.
a lot of.
I wish you a challenge here, Coop.
What's that?
Have the first book out by the end of the year.
Keep in mind my PC's busted, so not that that's an excuse. Yeah.
Nope. You got a laptop. You can still work.
Yeah.
Hey Coop, if
Have you
you've got any short stories in that setting, Bayan's been doing Sword and Planet anthologies.
Yeah.
Edited by Christopher Rocchio. So you should pitch it. I don't know if you know Christopher, but you should pitch it to him.
Oh, he knows
I've
Christopher.
interacted with him.
Okay, good. I didn't know if you knew him or not. He's a good dude.
Yeah. So I'll take a look at that. Still got to work that out. A lot of it is fucking math because you have to figure out like where the planets are and whether they're even functional or habitable. But
that's why I write fantasy.
Yeah, right. But Pete told me to his standard, and that's terrible because Larry, you always give advice to aspiring writers that is be prolific, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Pete can tell you to start being prolific because the amount of books that he puts out is insane.
Now he's an ass kicker.
He's also able to read books as well. Like it's
No, people, I did not pay any of these guys to.
No. Pete is just a genuine Renaissance man, a warrior scholar.
Pete pays
I
me
mean that completely
not-
unironically. I'm not being sarcastic. He really is. And it's going to be even funnier if I make this warrior scholar blush.
Yeah, he's got the samurai ethos. He's got to study and write poetry and then like chop dudes up.
Nope. He's got the Knight Templar ethos. He will kick the samurai's ass anytime they come across.
And he has a lot of opinions on banking.
Yeah, I'm no weeb. I mean, I just was using that. I'm not a.
You have a Japanese warrior weapon, Larry. It might not be a katana, but you.
Well, that was a direct result of playing in a role-playing game campaign for a couple of years, and my kids got that for me as a Christmas present. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, everybody else was playing high fantasy Tolkien ripoffs. You were playing Legend of Five Rings. All right, I think.
Okay, that is to be fair, pretty weeby. I will admit that's pretty weeby.
And then you wrote Toru, so
I did, and that character that I played was basically Toru, and that's why Toru was such a fleshed out character.
Didn't you write?
Speaking Predator? Of self-inserts.
Didn't you write Predator versus Samurai or Alien versus Samurai?
I did, yeah. So that was actually official for Predator too, for the Predator franchise.
It's better than
That was badass.
Yeah.
And that was a direct result of writing Toru. And I just wanted to like take my Tetsu bow and beat a predator with it because how cool is that?
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say if you weren't a weeb, how do you explain Hinckley? So.
Okay, no, she's pretty hardcore, which is funny though because everybody's begging her to finish a Kuro novel because her short fiction is so good in that universe. And
say Hinckley is living her best Zoomer life right there. She's like, she does like Twitch streaming. She's writing fiction, like manga fiction. She's an artist, I think, too.
A little bit. Well, she's actually working on
range, so I mean, like,
her real thing that she does is she's getting her computer. She's doing computer science, and so she's currently getting her C# certifications, so she can actually go make real money.
C# is music, Larry. You get it right.
I don't know what any of this stuff is. It's just all voodoo to me. She does computer things.
He gives me shit for being like the resident weeb in our chat room, which is not the case. It's just I have an animation background from high school. And Mike is trying to get me to watch the Evangelion.
I've probably seen more anime than these two put together.
Oh, yeah.
And what's going to happen is at some point, I don't know how we're going to set it up, but we're going to stream me making Mr. Coop there suffer through the rebuild of Evangelion movies because they're all on Amazon Prime for free now.
Okay, it's funny because you probably watched. So I've played a samurai in a role-playing game longer than anybody else, but you definitely watched more anime than anybody. I'd have to bring Hinckley in to like dominate on the anime thing because like she is like an anime walking encyclopedia. She's seen every obscure thing. Like I have no idea.
Cool. What was it you said about anime, Coop? It's like there's no other medium where they.
Oh yeah. So there's no other medium that approaches mature content or mature subject matter as immaturely as anime. Because they'll be like, oh yeah, it's a mature storyline. You're not going to see this in Disney, but also here's our F-cup tits that are just in your face the entire time, and we're going about it like fifth graders were. Like the way that like Deadwood's a great show. Don't get me wrong, it's written great. But when you like hear the dialogue and they're like cussing so gratuitously to the point where like it almost takes away from the dialogue, that's a 12-year-old that just got told he was allowed to cuss and he's doing it like incessantly. That's what anime is with anything that's mature related. So that's why the blood splatter is all over the place. That's why the sex is all over the place. But it's like doesn't have the adult like mindset of like that's not how that shit works.
It's like they show so much violence that it loses its shock value. There was one clip, I don't even remember what the movie or the show was called, but these giant monsters are gathering people up and they're shapeshifters. One of them morphs his hand into like a big bucket and they're putting people in it, and then he morphs his other hand into like a blender blade and is like mushing them up and is like, it's just comical at that point, It's
and I mean, like a lot of it is, but it's like there's so much anime. If there's one thing I'll give the Japanese is that they've got a lock on variety, while we're still stuck on like superheroes and shit like that. Although not for much longer, from what I've seen of the new Marvel shit. But Pete calls me a weeb to piss me off, but like really, I'm the third fucking bomb on Japan the way I talk about them. So it's. That being said, I know a couple of independent comic creators who operate in that sort of art style, and but the writing's really good. So give me a text and I'll send it towards Hinckley so that she can read it and give her assessment.
Yeah, sure.
Well, folks, we're now coming up on 3 hours.
Oh, let me before we cap it, let me promote my stuff.
Yeah.
So like I said,
you don't need.
Trouble Walked In. My next book comes out beginning of next month.
2 weeks, right? 2 weeks or a week?
It's about a week. I think it's August 8th. When I get the time nailed down for that signing at Uncle Hugo's, I'll put it out there. If people want to come out to get my signature, that's fine. But come out for Uncle Hugo's. They've been through a lot, and Don's refusing to let all the bad that happened drive him out of his hometown. And that's respectable. So it's worth showing up, and just be careful in Minneapolis. Keep that strap on, right?
And if you can't wait for Trouble Walked In, Mike has a book that's already, it's got that pulp sci-fi feel to it. It's called The Family Business.
Yeah, that was my previous book. Came out last year.
And it's great. If you like seeing Arizona Rangers bounty hunting aliens and human collaborators, that's...
In a lot of ways, that book was kind of like my love letter to the Southwest.
Yep.
You know, for all the time I spent in Arizona and parts of Utah. And so... Yeah,
wait, you love the Southwest? I thought you just like revolvers, ironically.
Yeah. I unironically love Southwestern revolvers. But what are we talking about?
Actually, I just checked, and Trouble Walked In comes out on Tuesday, the 2nd.
Oh,
Yep.
really? Okay, I was way off.
Wow.
Awesome.
Wow. Okay. Real fast.
Everybody go buy that.
Yeah, seriously, guys. Mike's a really good writer.
My work in progress right now.
I'd make a really good book blurb, Larry.
I
am on your blurbs.
My work in progress right now is called Twin Star. It's a brand new space opera.
Cool.
And it's the main characters, two of the main characters are twins, hence the name. You know, the brother is kind of like a gentleman of leisure. You know, he comes from a wealthy background. He doesn't have a lot of responsibilities. He's young. He's irresponsible. And then his sister, who is a exobiologist dedicated to studying alien life, who never gets to go off planet. Well, they're finally going to get to go off planet on an adventure. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be pretty great. So, but that should be out next year sometime. I just got to finish, writing it first. So,
and if you can't wait for that space opera, Mike's got a book series called the Privateer Andromeda series, which is it's very good. We were talking about it earlier. Allison does a great job at the audiobook narration, but
I normally don't even like audiobooks, and I really liked her audio renditions of those. Yeah. So if you pick them up just for the audiobook, I don't think you'll be disappointed.
They're very good.
Guys, it's been fun.
That's been fun, guys.
Always has.
Dude, I've just had one hell of a long month.
Well, yeah, we know it was taxing for you, Larry, because you weren't banned off Facebook. So we know you.
Oh, that was so hard. And then I wrote a book this month, so I was basically as fast as Peter for 1 month.
Yeah. Well, you couldn't have been that busy, Larry. You only made $309,189 on your Kickstarter. So,
dude, and like 11 of that was tonight. Talking to you guys. Holy crap!
You're welcome.
Yeah, no, you're good luck.
Subscribe to my OnlyFans.
Well, we'll have
I
to
call
make
this the moneymaker for a reason, Larry.
Check out Mike's OnlyFans, and
it's just parrots. I've looked. I've already unsubscribed.
And on that note, we're going to call it a night, folks. So we'll see you all next month.
Night, guys.
Good night, everybody.